Chapter 13:20. One step after another. He felt that every time he defeated a silver figure, he would get closer to the heavenly treasure. The silver figures were really strong. Even if they were just peak saint-level human warriors, they still had a leader of the 12 constellations of the royal path. Their strength was different. And every time he went up a level, it would be harder and the power produced would be stronger. The 62nd level. Clang! The purple crystal spear shone coldly. Lin Feng's fighting spirit was boiling. After the main body completed its mission, it left. Reaching the 62nd level, the main body's usefulness was greatly reduced. It was hard to tell how strong Yun Qi's doppelganger was. Other than the star source energy consumption, the 5 silver figures could not stop him. Their only use was to wear him down. Using the method of attrition to wear down his own star source energy, they would create an advantage for their comrades behind. Of course, there was always a mountain higher than the one before. Pong! His aura surged. Lin Feng's eyes shone with light. Thunder roared. The golden star source energy shone brightly. The thunder slaughter armor wrapped around his body, exploding with a tyrannical power. After a period of rest, the doppelganger's body not only reached its peak, the star source energy filled every cell, completely overflowing. His best state. Come! Lin Feng's lips curled. The 5 silver figures flashed in front of him, their aura extraordinary. But he had full confidence. Fight! It was an exhilarating battle. But in the blink of an eye, victory was decided. Lin Feng had a wild and unrestrained aura. The battle just now was just a warm-up for him who had recovered his star source energy. He did not need to recover. Even if he used a bit of star source energy, it did not matter. Pong! The last silver figure disappeared. The 67th level. Lin Feng's eyes shone. He was getting closer and closer to the heavenly treasure. At this moment, the main body's heart was palpitating more and more, as if he could feel the high and mighty light tool calling out to him. As long as he could pass the test, break the array within the array, he would be able to reach the true array core. Face it head-on. At that time, with the compatibility between the main body and the light tool, he had a 90% chance of instantly complete compatibility. Wah! Light flashed. He could feel the aura in his heart, but it was not 5 auras but 6. Another upgrade. However, there was no panic in Lin Feng's eyes. All he had was confidence in his strength and a strong will to fight. The strength of the 5 silver figures was no longer a threat to him, but he did not know if the 6 silver figures could force him to use 100% of his strength. Come! Lin Feng's hand shook, and the amethyst spear pointed straight ahead. His fighting spirit was boiling. The war of liches and demons had completely broken out. The Shaman Emperor Jiang personally took command and gathered all the forces of the ancient shamans and the shamans. He waved his army and officially launched a counterattack. They had won the first battle. With the momentum of defeating the demon commander, the Magi were invincible. They advanced forward crazily, aiming for the other army of the demon clan. The army had split into 2 groups. One of the vanguard of the demonic beasts had suffered heavy losses and was completely annihilated. Even one of the 12 demonic stars had been killed. One could only imagine how great their losses were. It could be said that the sorcerer tribe had the upper hand. However, at this moment, within the army, the shaman Emperor Jiang's expression was grave. Not only him, but even the 2 shaman kings closest to him, Xian Ming and Hutu, had solemn expressions. The atmosphere froze. It seemed that something had happened. Big brother, is there really no other way? Xian Ming asked in a low voice. His tone was a little depressed. Yes, big brother. Can't we delay it a little longer? Hutu was quite anxious. It was rare for him, who had always been calm, to show such an expression. The matter was quite troublesome. It was hard to imagine what had happened to the sorcerer tribe that had the upper hand at this moment to make a shaman emperor and 2 shaman kings look like this. Shaking his head, the shaman emperor Jiang sighed. His lonely expression hid many emotions. He looked up at the starry sky with his hands behind his back. At this moment, the sorcerer tribe star, which symbolized the hope of mankind, shone brightly and bloomed. Not to mention the demon clan's emperor's star. Even if all the other stars were added together, they could not be compared to this sorcerer tribe's star. It was like the difference between the bright moon and a firefly. However, there was no joy in the shaman emperor's eyes. Instead, there was a worried expression. His gaze fell on the sorcerer tribe's star. The 3 points and the line had already collapsed, but the ancient tribe's new star and the human clan's emperor's star were still close to each other. His eyes were bright, and the shaman emperor's expression changed from time to time. All the words he wanted to say turned into a long sigh, and he closed his eyes. It seemed to be a statement, or it was a tacit agreement and helplessness. Is this heaven's will? Shaman Emperor Jiang murmured. Is this heaven's will? The arrival of the heavenly treasure, the 3 points in the line of the human clan, the appearance of the strange scene, including the 2 emperors' stars shining at the same time, all of this seemed to be destined by fate, but there were too many changes that could happen. How powerful was the heavenly treasure? Perhaps only the shaman Emperor Di Jiang, who had fused with the sky arc, knew that even the red-yellow essence ape, who had obtained the light pillar and turned it into a giant rod, could not truly use it. As for the last light weapon, it was still an ownerless item. Although there were people fighting for it, it did not mean that they could obtain it. Other than luck and opportunity, one also needed to have sufficient strength. Pooh, pooh, Gu Sheng spat out blood violently. His face was pale and ugly. Illusion, don't try to stop me. I am the emperor of the ancient tribe, who is rarely seen in thousands of years. I am the future emperor of the ancient tribe. Gu Sheng, will definitely not fall here. He roared in anger. At this moment, Gu Sheng no longer had any gentleness or elegance. His exquisite face had even become much more ferocious. His already heavily injured body had become even more injured. His aura was extremely weak. His body was covered in blood. His body had already reached a critical point. However, Gu Sheng's eyes were bloodshot, but he was still stubborn and unyielding. He had a prideful self-esteem. This was a double-edged sword. It could allow him to succeed, but it would also hurt him. Gu Sheng's defeat in the battle with the bull demon was shocking. It was an epic defeat. Originally, he even thought that other than the shaman Emperor Di Jiang, he was invincible. However, the appearance of the bull demon had completely beaten him into a bottomless abyss, causing his heart to completely collapse. He had lost. What he lost was not only his body, but also his heart. His perfect and flawless heart had become full of holes. It was a scene of devastation. The most direct result was that Gu Sheng had completely fallen into this mere illusion. Rather than saying that he had fallen into an illusion, it was more accurate to say that he had fallen into his own heart's devil. He was deeply trapped, unable to extricate himself. With his original strength, this illusory fog wouldn't be able to stop him at all. He could even break it with a raise of his hand. However, right now, it had become a fatal dagger, stabbing him again and again, causing him to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Ha! Ha ha ha! Gu Sheng laughed arrogantly and wantonly. He had completely given up on resisting. He opened his arms and staggered forward. His eyes became even more stubborn. He had already reached the point where he was possessed. His prideful self-esteem made him unwilling to take a step back, even if the result of continuing forward might be death. He was fearless. This was Gu Sheng. He probably had the most prideful heart in the Douling world. Bang! 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 The repeated collisions shook Gu Sheng's soul. However, his eyes were still shining with a cold light. It was hard to imagine that under that feminine face, there would be such a stubborn personality, such a strong tenacity. Even if his body was shattered, he would still be unyielding. Until all the illusions around him disappeared. His body stopped like a stone. The light in Gu Sheng's eyes became dimmer and dimmer. He lost the pressure and at the same time lost his last bit of strength. His eyes were blurred. His body and mind had long exceeded their limits. Gu Sheng's eyes were lifeless. With a bang, he fell heavily to the ground and lost consciousness. Whether he was dead or alive, there was no way to know. At this moment, Lin Feng was still trying to break through the barrier. Naturally, he did not know that Gu Sheng had completely fainted outside the array. In fact, even if he knew, he would not do anything. They could not be considered friends or enemies. However, they were competitors right now. Who could obtain the heavenly treasure would depend on luck and opportunity. No one knew whether Lin Feng would be able to obtain it first or whether Gu Sheng would surpass him. Even the heavens did not know. Or perhaps a third expert, or even a fourth or fifth, would appear. No one knew, and there was no need to know. To Lin Feng, the only one he could control was himself. Everything else was not within his control. Since that was the case, there was no need to worry. What should happen would happen. As long as he did his best, he would not regret it even if he did not obtain it. Boom! Boom! Astral origin energy exploded. Now is the time. Lin Feng's eyes were completely bright. He had finally found the best opportunity to fight with the 6 silver figures. He did not attack the strongest silver figure commander. Instead, he changed his direction and directly attacked the heavenly soul master who had been secretly influencing him. At this moment, they were no longer able to stop him. The clouds rose and dispersed. Dawn broke. The powerful spear was fearless in the face of the heavenly soul master's counterattack before his death. Cheat! The spear shattered all of his defenses. It's over. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. A corner of the array of the 6 silver figures had already shattered. The rest could no longer stop him. The 6 silver figures became 5. Although their cooperation was still good, and their strength was better than the previous 5 silver figures, it was as if they had fallen from a high-level Saint King to a mid-level Saint King. There was no need to say more about their strength. How could they unleash 100% of their strength now? In less than 30 seconds, they broke through one by one. Lin Feng's expression was calm and composed. He did not leave a single one alive. Although nearly a third of his astral source energy had been consumed, his condition was at its peak. He was even stronger than during the warm-up. How could he stop? There's still one more stage to pass. Lin Feng's eyes were bright and full of confidence. He raised his spear, and the last silver figure disappeared into thin air, turning into nothingness. Time. Lin Feng landed on the ground, holding the purple crystal spear in his hand. His expression was full of vigor. He looked straight ahead without any fear. There was only boiling fighting spirit, waiting for the next batch of 6 or even 7 silver figures to descend in front of him. But, however, a sudden change occurred. Whoosh! A dazzling golden light shot out. Lin Feng's eyes instantly lit up. Chapter 1321. An aura. It was a complete victory over the silver figure from before. Saint King level, Lin Feng's eyes lit up and his heart trembled. A bright golden light came from afar. It was not the golden color of star source energy, but a golden star armor. It was completely different from the silver star armor of the silver figure from before. Not only was the star armor stronger, but the aura was stronger as well. The aura had completely changed. This was a low-level, Saint King-level human powerhouse. A heavenly warrior. It seems to have changed, Lin Feng muttered. From the silver figure to the golden figure, its strength had greatly increased. This was the 73rd step. But for him, a Saint King-level powerhouse is even better. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Compared to 6 or 7 peak Saint-level powerhouses working together, a low-level Saint King-level martial artist could not compare at all. It would be easy for him to cross the 73rd step. Even if he did not use the spear move, Rising Clouds, he could easily win. But was it that easy? No. Lin Feng pursed his lips as a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Behind him, he inexplicably felt a bone-piercing gloominess, as if a poisonous snake was hiding in the dark. There was another one. It's not that simple, Lin Feng thought to himself. In addition to this Saint King-level heavenly warrior, there was another Saint King-level heavenly god. One close and one far, it was the best combination. It seems that this test not only requires understanding of arrays, but also being able to defeat the cooperation of powerhouses of the same level. Similarly, I need to defeat a stronger martial artist. And there's more than one. The pincer attack from the front and back was like a hurricane. However, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. There was no fear in them, only confidence. Compared to the cooperation of many people before, he could deal with these Saint King-level powerhouses more easily. Clang! The purple crystal spear shone brightly, and his aura was at its peak. Lin Feng's aura was majestic. He did not advance, but instead retreated, attacking the heavenly god behind him. First go outside, then close. This was the truth that he had comprehended on the first 72 steps. 1 against 2. Moreover, it was a battle between a peak Saint Realm Master and 2 early Saint King Realm Masters. This would be unimaginable anywhere in the Douling world. But now, not only had Lin Feng not fallen into a disadvantageous position, he had instead cleanly slaughtered 2 Saint King Realm Low-Order Masters, one after the other. Yes, it was a massacre, not a defeat. It's not that they are weak, but Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He held the purple crystal spear in his hand and felt the power flowing into him. I'm too strong. Clang! The amethyst spear flashed. After the buff, his spear technique had already reached the peak of the Saint King grade, and with the help of Cloud Rising, he was able to perfectly manifest his spear technique. Battle after battle allowed Cloud Rising to become more and more proficient, and more compatible. The same spear move, Cloud's Rise, was displayed with the strength of his doppelganger. Compared to the strength of his main body, it was on a completely different level. Chi! Spear intent filled the sky. After killing the golden figures on the 73rd and 74th steps, the golden figures on the 75th and 76th steps soon followed suit. Although their strength and cooperation were stronger and more refined, they were still unable to withstand a single blow from him. My improvement is too great. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he smiled slightly. Not long ago, he had faced a Saint King Realm Low-Order King Ju, who had just broken through and was surrounded by danger. But now, he could easily slaughter 2 masters whose strength was not inferior to King Ju's. And he could do it with ease. This was an improvement. Maybe there really is hope for the 108th step. Lin Feng said softly. At this moment, his extremely strong aura and combat strength made him unable to stop. Golden light flashed in front of him, and as the golden figure on the 76th step disappeared, in an instant, 3 golden figures appeared. They formed a perfect triangle, and their aura suppressed him. 3 of them. As expected, it will slowly increase. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. However, his fighting spirit did not decrease, but increased instead. Along with the boiling fighting spirit, the amethyst spear was also like a roaring dragon, surging with momentum. What was there to fear? In the sorcerer tribe realm, it was in full swing, and the crowd was boiling. The fight for the meteor rare treasure had completely begun. As time passed, the masters found the approximate location of the meteor rare treasure. After the hot spot, another round of fighting began. The warriors who had obtained one of the meteor rare treasures naturally wanted to obtain 2, 3, or even more. There weren't many people who were truly content with what they had. As for those who did not obtain the meteor rare treasure, they were even more enthusiastic and crazy. Robberies and assassinations were carried out in every corner of the sorcerer tribe realm. Boom! Boom! The 2 masters of the sorcerer tribe did not give in to each other, and they fought to the death. They were both at the peak of the saint level, but they fought fiercely over an earth-level gold treasure. No matter how strong the sorcerer tribe was, they were fundamentally like the other tribes, and there would be internal strife. In fact, the 12 tribes of the sorcerer tribe basically did not like each other, just like how the ancient tribes worshipped different divine beasts. It was the same for the sorcerer tribe, but the fight between the 2 sides soon came to an end. On the sides of the 2 masters of the sorcerer tribe, 2 terrifying figures attacked swiftly. They had powerful auras and were astonishingly fast. The star source energy fluctuated rapidly, and 2 masters, one human and one demon, appeared. They each displayed their strengths, And before the two masters of the sorcerer tribe could recover from their shock, they had already been dealt with cleanly. Bang! Bang! The two masters of the sorcerer tribe widened their eyes, and they died with grievances. Whoosh! With a flash of light, the earth-level connate treasure with golden light floated in the air and landed in the hands of a demonic man. The other man had a gloomy face, and there was no desire or jealousy in his eyes, as if he did not care at all. "For you, third brother," a calm voice sounded. The demonic man waved his hand, and the golden earth-level treasure was flicked out. Slap! The other gloomy man reached out and took it, smiling faintly. "Thank you." Demon Kuei-2 and Lamb talked tea. "It doesn't suit me." Kuei-2 smiled faintly. He stretched out his foot and stepped on the corpse of the master of the sorcerer tribe. With a forceful stomp, he turned the corpse into a pile of meat. A ferocious pleasure flashed in his eyes. Lamb Talk Tea was expressionless. He looked around and said casually, "An earth-level connate treasure is not very useful." Kuei-2 nodded, his eyes cold. "It's not easy to find a heaven-level meteor treasure." Lamb Talk Tea's eyes flickered. "We seem to lack some luck." "It doesn't matter." Kuei-2 shrugged, the corners of his mouth twitching. His right hand turned into a claw and flashed with a cold light, tearing apart the corpse of the master of the sorcerer tribe. "Anyway, our goal is not the meteor treasure. According to Second Brother, there are indeed 3 heavenly treasures. One was obtained by the sorcerer emperor, the other by the demon commander, and the third." Lamb Talk Tea hesitated and looked at Tuesday. "It's been so long, and there's still no news. Maybe someone got it before us." "No, the heavenly treasure is still there." Kuei-2 sneered. His claw was bloody. "Oh." Lamb Talk Tea looked at Kuei-2 in surprise. Kuei-2's eyes flashed coldly. He said coldly, "The news came from Second Brother. I heard that the sorcerer emperor personally ordered a secret search. It can't be false." Lamb Talk Tea's eyes flashed, and he nodded. The sorcerer emperor Jiang was unfathomable. He was also one of the heavenly treasures. If he said that the third heavenly treasure was still there, the possibility was more than 90%. Lamb Talk Tea glanced at Kuei-2 and smiled indifferently. If Big Brother can fuse with the last heavenly treasure, his strength will definitely increase greatly. He will be able to catch up to the sorcerer emperor Jiang. Of course. Kuei-2 laughed loudly, full of arrogance. Lamb Talk Tea also laughed, but his eyes flashed with a faint light. Who would want a heavenly treasure? However, to obtain a heavenly treasure, one must have opportunity, strength, and luck. None of these could be missing. Bull Demon had sufficient strength, but he didn't have the opportunity. To be precise, he had given his opportunity to the red-yellow essence ape as a vanguard to completely suppress the rising star of the ancient race, Gusheng. As for Gusheng, he had sufficient opportunity, but his luck was rather bad. He had encountered Bull Demon first and was severely injured later. Although he had discovered the existence of a heavenly treasure, his mental state had been shattered. Even a mere illusory fog had caused him to narrowly escape death. In the end, he had relied on his tenacious self-esteem and willpower to barely charge out of the illusory realm. However, he was physically and mentally exhausted and had completely fainted. There is only one word to describe it: unlucky. With his strength, if he could really enter the formation set up by the heavenly treasure, the light weapon, he would be able to do it. With his peak power at full strength, he did not need to expend any Herculean effort to reap the luminous item, just as he had almost reaped the luminous pillar in the scorching lands. However, there were no ifs. And the man who had defeated the demon race commander and stood at the top of the Douling world, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang. Opportunity, strength, and luck. He had all 3. However, he lacked a little life. Fate makes fools of people. Jiang had his hands behind his back. His golden robe was dazzling like stars. If it was worn by other cultivators, it would definitely steal the limelight. However, on Jiang, it was just an accessory. Even if Jiang didn't reveal any aura, his aura was already extremely shocking. This was the aura of an emperor. Why? Does the heavens want to destroy my sorcerer race? Gritting his teeth, Dejong's face was distorted and his body trembled. The star source energy couldn't stop pouring out. The entire hall shook violently. Dejong clenched his fists until his veins popped out. He was panting heavily. In an instant, the heavenly arc appeared in his right hand. It flashed with a proud light, as if it had conquered the entire world. Tell me why? Why? His hysterical voice was filled with anger. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang seemed to have gone crazy. His trembling body couldn't stop his violent anger. It was as if the sky was about to collapse. At this moment, the sorcerer race's giant star was still dazzling in the starry sky. Not only did it suppress the ancient race and the human race, but also completely defeated the demon race. What happened to such a powerful sorcerer race? Why did Sorcerer Emperor Jiang lose control? No one knew. Chapter 1322. Consecutive Victories. Lin Feng was unstoppable. During this period, he even used his main body to exchange with his doppelganger to help his doppelganger recover his star source energy and fight again, breaking the array with his peak strength. The attrition battle of the 108 steps was no longer useful. At least in terms of attrition, it was perfectly resolved. On the 77th step, the number of golden figures increased to 3. On the 80th step, a commander-level powerhouse appeared among the 3 golden figures. On the 83rd step, the number of golden figures increased to 4. 4 low-level Saint King Realm Masters. How strong were they? If they were ordinary 4 Saint King Realm powerhouses from the Sorcerer race or the Ancient race, Lin Feng had absolute confidence in defeating them. However, in this spirit array, the 4 human Saint King Realm Masters were able to rely on their seamless coordination and formation to force Lin Feng into a bitter struggle. In the end, they won. Peng. Falling heavily to the ground, Lin Feng's face was pale. Defeated. After comprehending the spear, move clouds rise, this was the first time he had been defeated. Although he persevered until the last moment before being defeated, he still did not manage to break the battle array of the 4 golden figures. Even when he was about to die, he did not manage to kill any of them. This defeat seemed to be only a hair's breadth away, but in reality, it was very close. So strong, Lin Feng thought to himself. His eyes were burning, and every scene of this battle appeared clearly in his mind. However, his main body was watching from the side, using his top-notch eyes to record every detail. Although he did not directly participate in the battle, it was more effective than directly participating in the battle. Failure was indispensable on the road to success. Hew. After a long breath, Lin Feng sat down cross-legged. Then, he recovered his physical strength and star source energy. His main body appeared with a swoosh, his eyes flashing brightly as he entered his own state. Supporting role. Hua. In his mind, scenes of the battle appeared one after another. It was very thrilling. Whether it was the exquisite coordination or the use of the mysteries, they all gave him a deep enlightenment. This was different from the battle between Sorcerer Emperor Dejiang and the red-yellow ape. He could clearly see the mysteries used by the golden figures here. He could deeply understand it. Different levels of strength led to different comprehensions. Compared to the red-yellow ape's ultimate profundity that his main body could not understand at all, he could easily comprehend the profundity and power of these golden figures. That was not all. While he was comprehending the mysteries behind it, he was also familiarizing himself with the coordination of the 4 golden silhouettes, learning how to execute it, how to coordinate with each other, and what their weaknesses were. This was very important. This was because the test of every step was the same. A classic combination. War God and War God. Heavenly Spirit Master and Heavenly Soul Master. Lin Feng's eyes shone. It was not rare for him to see such cooperation in a formation within a formation. The silver figure from before was the same. However, he was powerful enough to easily break the silver figure from the middle. However, the golden figure at this moment was a different individual. Just the combined strength of these Saint Kings was enough to give Yang Kai a headache. Needless to say, every Golden Warrior at the beginner stage of the Saint King realm had their own unique abilities, just like the Sorcerer tribe and the Ancient tribe. Very strong. His strength is comparable to a true high-level Saint King sorcerer. It won't be easy to win. Exhaling lightly, Lin Feng thought to himself. Then, he closed his eyes and fell in a deep thought. Compared to his clone's comprehension, his main body's comprehension was many times stronger. He had a much deeper understanding of this classic combination of tacit understanding. It was a huge project. His main body and his clone advanced side by side, dividing the work and cooperating with each other. But 83 steps. There were still 25 steps to go to the 108th step. It was easier said than done. The higher they went, the more difficult it was. Fight! The Sorcerer tribe was unstoppable. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was reckless. He did not care if the demon race had an ambush or some scheme. He personally led the army and charged forward fearlessly. He had an aura that he would not stop until he achieved his goal. It was as if he knew that the demon race was not confident enough. The Battle of the Vanguard was very important. The demon race was the first to start the war. If the Vanguard army was completely wiped out, it would be a huge blow to the demon race's morale. This was especially true when their commander had been severely injured. If they were defeated again and again, it could be said that the outcome of the battle between the sorcerer and the demon race was set. After all, the demon race was formed by the connection of various races. They lacked the most important factor of unity. Moreover, the demon race would not use any complicated tricks. To them, victory was very simple. In a face-to-face battle, whoever had the biggest fist would be the boss. The morale of the Sorcerer tribe, the Ancient race, and the 8 great regions of the human race was high. They were full of joy and confidence. It was as if with the Sorcerer Emperor around, there was no need to worry about anything. Wave after wave of victories not only boosted the morale of the 3 great races of the human race, but also gave them some blind confidence. They seemed to have forgotten that it was the demon race who had always had the upper hand. Moreover, the demon race's power far surpassed that of the Sorcerer tribe. Most importantly, not only did the Sorcerer tribe have a new leader this time, but they also had more powerful experts from other races. They also had some middle forces such as Third Brother. This is a great opportunity for us. The demon Kuei Tu's eyes lit up. Lam Tok T's expression was calm and composed with a hint of seriousness. I understand. After speaking slowly, Lam Tok T looked at the demon Kuei Tu and frowned slightly. But I'm a human after all. The demon race, he said hesitantly. Lam Tok T did not continue. He only looked at Kuei Tuesday. The latter grinned and patted his chest. Don't worry. I'll vouch for you in my name. The Blood Tiger race is one of the 4 royal races after all. The Blood Tiger Emperor, Kuei Tianyuan, still has considerable prestige among the demon race. Now that the new commander, the Great Sage, has been completely defeated by the Sorcerer Emperor, there are already many discordant voices among the demon race. This is a great opportunity for us. Kuei Tu looked at Lam Tok T with a cold gaze. This opportunity is hard to come by. Now that the demon race is in danger, if we can help at this moment. Kuei Tu sneered and looked at Lam Tok T. When their eyes met, some words could be understood without needing to be said. It was easy to add flowers to embroidery, but difficult to provide timely help. Lam Tok T looked at Kuei Tuesday. How could he not know what he was thinking? Indeed, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Not only could they help the demon race balance, but they could also use this opportunity to enter the demon race's camp. If they could make a great contribution, they would definitely be valued in the future. This move was the best move for the 3 brothers. But when Kuei Tu suggested it at this moment, there was a deeper meaning. It seems that what we sensed earlier should be the location of the heavenly treasure. Lam Tok T sighed in his heart. At this moment, he was completely certain. Of all times, Kuei Tu only suggested this now. There is no doubt that he did not want him to participate in this to avoid unnecessary changes. This was Kuei Tu's selfishness, and he had no answer to refuse. I understand, big brother. Lam Tokti nodded. He did not show his thoughts on his face. Very good. Kuei Tu patted Lam Tokti's shoulder and smiled. You are the smartest and most capable of us three brothers. I will use my life to guarantee that I will recommend you to the Blood Tiger Emperor, Kuei Tianyuan. Perform well. The success or failure of us three brothers will depend on you. I will do my best. Lam Tokti smiled faintly. A glint flashed his eyes. Although he had completely declared that he was not fated with the heavenly treasure, how could he know if it was a blessing or a curse? Perhaps there would be a glimmer of hope. Bang, bang, pooh. Severely injured, Lin Feng's face was dark and pale. There was a hint of helplessness in the corner of his eyes, but he stubbornly resisted. Around him, 5 auras moved rapidly. They were like 5 light spots forming a whole plane. Control, attack, defense, every aspect was complete and flawless. Their strength had already exceeded the scope of high-level Sage King, and there were only 5 golden figures. Clouds rise. Lin Feng suddenly took a step forward. His figure changed, bringing with it a heavy pressure. In the battle, he improved again and again. Now, his spear technique had already reached the limit of the 9th level, but he still had not comprehended anything from breaking through. Even so, the power of Cloud's rise was much stronger than when he had just comprehended it. But bang! His mind shook violently. The attacks of the Heavenly Soul Masters were like invisible daggers, stabbing at invisible wounds. At the same time, water screens appeared in front of the purple crystal spear. There seemed to be endless water screens flashing at every moment. Not only did it weaken the power of Cloud's rise, but it also consumed star source energy. Most importantly, it completely disrupted the rhythm of the spear. In front of him, a war god and 2 martial gods formed the shape of a trident. One was in charge of defense, and 2 were in charge of offense. The 2 different types of source energy bombarded the purple crystal spear, weakening the power of the spear again and again. The 5 auras merged into a line, and their cooperation was extremely tacit. In front of them, a huge shield appeared, colliding with Cloud's rise, creating a sonorous sound. Damn it! Lin Feng gritted his teeth, but his strength was almost exhausted. At this moment, the martial gods who had just exhausted the purple crystal spear descended at the same time, and the water screens in the sky were already dazzling. From defense to offense, it only took an instant. Too fast. Defeat. And it was a crushing defeat. Lin Feng fell heavily to the ground, lying on his back, his chest rising and falling. 3 days. He had been trapped in this level for 3 full days. However, he was still unable to break through. After passing through the 83rd level and the 87th level, he was now facing the 5 golden figures on the 91st level. They were too strong. Under the leadership of the commander-level golden figures, their power far exceeded the previous levels. Complete defeat. I can't take it anymore. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled, and he let out a long sigh. I've already reached the limit. To break through the 91st level, relying on the strength of my clone, is very unlikely. Even if I break through this level, the probability of reaching the 108th level is also infinitely close to 0. Lin Feng revealed a weak smile. However, the light in his eyes did not show that he had given up, but that he was as determined as ever. Since this path was blocked, there was no need to continue. There was not only one way to reach the end. Right now, the clearest, simplest, and biggest way to increase one's strength was still another method. Break through to the Saint King realm. Lin Feng's eyes burned. Chapter 1323. One family was happy while the other was sad. The 8 human regions were celebrating, but the South region was in a terrible state. The Sorcerer tribe's victory and the Demon tribe's escape forced the South region into a corner. The situation was extremely dangerous. The transportation arrays in every county were filled with cultivators of all sizes. They could not wait to leave the South region and join the other 8 regions. However, under the effective maintenance of order, Shun minimized the losses. Not bad. King Yin looked down with a burning gaze. You have to admire Lin Feng's foresight, Shun said with a smile. There was some bitterness in his smile, but it came from the bottom of his heart. Even though Lin Feng acted like a tyrant during the riot that day, but now it shows that he has made a very wise decision. Using violence to solve chaos, using power to rule the South region, he removed all discord. Even though he's called a tyrant, at least he was able to stabilize the South region in such a dangerous situation. That's impressive. King Yin said seriously. He looked at Shun with bright eyes. Even you, eldest senior brother, can't do this, right? Shun nodded and looked at the stars. So, he's the real king of the South region, not me. Shun was full of admiration when he remembered what the heavenly secret Saint Lord said to him. He calculated it perfectly. Unfortunately, even though King Lu tried his best to persuade them to stay, many martial saints still left. King Yin shook his head and sighed. Compared to the commoners, the martial saints were the pillars of the country. They were the true embodiment of strength. The policies could restrict the commoners, but they could not restrict the saint-level experts. With their strength, they could easily cross the border and enter the wilderness. It would not be too dangerous. It's okay. If they want to leave, just leave. Shun put his hands behind his back, his eyes bright. We can use this opportunity to get rid of some cultivators who are disloyal to the southern region and Emperor Lin. If they can leave because of this today, they might betray the southern region and Emperor Lin for other reasons in the future, Shun said slowly. Shouldn't we be happy that these people are leaving? King Yin looked at Shun and nodded. Eldest senior brother's words make sense. Don't worry. Shun smiled faintly. Trust in Lin Feng. He won't be wrong. These short-sighted, foolish people will sooner or later regret the decision they made today. I'm sure. Shun's eyes shone brightly. Breaking through to the Saint King realm, Lin Feng's main body and avatar stood face to face. At this moment, his heart was incomparably calm. In this formation within a formation, he kept falling down the 108 steps, getting injured, falling down again, and getting injured again. He learned from his failures, and the path in front of him became clearer and clearer. Indeed, there were other ways to break through the 108 steps. For example, fusing with a heaven-class Xiantian treasure, or fusing the Tao of metal with the Tao of strength, like the red-yellow essence ape, or comprehending a spear technique, like Sacred Lord Cloud Spear, or even surpassing the Saint King realm. There are too many ways. However, these were only methods to treat the symptoms and not the root cause. Moreover, in terms of probability, it was far from the most basic and direct method. Breaking through to the Saint King realm, whether it's my main body or my avatar, I'm already on the verge of breaking through. As long as I cross the bottleneck, the path ahead will be clear, and I don't need any other methods. I believe that with the ability of a Saint King, I can definitely cross all 108 steps. The most important thing is Lin Feng's eyes burned. He raised his head and looked at the light weapon. His main body's heart palpitated intensely. A heaven-class treasure required a Saint King to control and be compatible with it, and forcefully refining it required the strength of a Saint King, even if it was the lowest heaven-class red-class Xiantian treasure. So what if it was a stronger heavenly treasure? It was completely imaginable. If he passed these 108 steps, passed all the tests, and came into contact with the heavenly treasure, he would be able to control it. But at that time, if he was unable to fuse it due to insufficient strength, wouldn't it be useless and become a joke? If he wanted to do it, he had to do it cleanly. And breaking through to the Saint King realm was also one of the most basic and original goals for him to enter the wizard realm, to reach the peak of the Douling world. Only then would he be qualified to become the emperor of the human race. Ha! Lin Feng clenched his fists tightly. Breaking through battle is the fastest and most direct method. Whether it's my main body or my clone, the stellar source energy is completely saturated, so there's no need to worry about this at all. What's left is the mystery, the unique mystery of the natal constellation. Lin Feng's eyes burned, and his heart was calm. There was only one thing left. The stars in the sky contained unlimited constellation energy. The mystery was the evolution of the constellation energy, the ultimate embodiment of Tao. Comprehending the mystery was like collecting water droplets in a vast ocean of constellation Tao. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops. Different mysteries had different constellation Tao's water droplets. It could be more or less. A peak Saint King realm might only have 10 drops of constellation Tao, but a peak Saint King realm might have 100, 1,000, or even more drops of constellation Tao. There were no bottlenecks. If the god of war wanted to break through to the Saint King realm, he needed to activate the god of war's spirit. However, his clone had already fused into one, so he didn't have to worry about breaking through to the Starry Sky realm. Once he was strong enough, he would naturally be able to break through. It might be more troublesome for his main body, with the Phoenix natal plate as his main body, but if he obtained one of the 2 natal plates, he would be able to break through to the Saint King realm, and if he obtained the other, he would be able to break through to the Starry Sky realm. Similarly, he didn't have any obstacles. It just depended on which one could comprehend the mystery. First, the existence of the constellation Tao. There are many mysteries to choose from for my clone, Lin Feng thought to himself thoughtfully. Previously, when he watched the red-yellow essence apes battle, his main body had learned many mysteries. Although they weren't that clear, at least there were many inspirations. Moreover, the mysteries used by the red-yellow essence ape were more complicated and difficult than the previous one. The constellation Tao they contained was quite rich. If he was proficient in any one of them, he would be able to break through to the Saint King realm. But I'm afraid there are many obstacles. After all, the clone and the main body are 2 different entities. Plus, the mystery of the red-yellow essence ape is still unclear, so might not be something I'm good at. His eyes flashing, Lin Feng pondered. The mysteries used by the red-yellow essence ape all had a common characteristic, which was the perfect fusion of the Tao of strength and the Tao of gold. Regardless of the existence of these 2 Taos, he was confident in either one. But to fuse them together, the difficulty was obviously not ordinary. If it were other ancient martial artists, they might choose to try. But he, helplessly shaking his head, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Fusion seemed easy, but it was actually too complicated. Until now, he couldn't really fuse the devouring fire and the rebirth fire. On the other hand, these were merely 2 types of flames. If they were 2 completely different Taos, then the difficulty of fusing them was obvious. There are now 2 mysteries of my clone. Sparrow Kill is the explosion of pure slaughter Tao, while Starfold Dance is the fusion of Space Tao and Strength Tao. Which one should I choose? Lin Feng pondered. If he chose to comprehend 2 mysteries at the same time, it would undoubtedly be stupid. He hadn't reached the Saint King level yet, so what he needed to consider now was to comprehend one of the mysteries and raise his realm, using the fastest method to comprehend one of the mysteries. Compared to the original body, the clone was stronger, so it would naturally be stronger after reaching the Saint King level, especially the body. At that time, the body that had already reached the peak of the Saint King level would become extremely terrifying. It was hard to estimate. The importance of the body was self-evident. Looking at which Emperor Zhong's speed in space and the red-yellow essence ape's toughness and defense, it was obvious. Moreover, compared to the original body, the clone had a stronger recovery ability here, which was very important. It meant that the clone would have more time to train by fighting than the original body. The mysteries of the 2 mysteries should be similar, Lin Feng thought to himself. For example, the same 1,000 droplets constellation Tao, in the same realm, the Starfold Dance is undoubtedly stronger, but at the same time, the difficulty of comprehending it is also higher. I'll still choose Sparrow Kill. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He didn't hesitate for too long and made the most rational decision. What he needed now wasn't the strength of the mysteries, but the difficulty and speed of comprehending it. In this aspect, Sparrow Kill won. Clenching his fist, a murderous aura rose. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. and he smiled slightly. It's also in line with the goal of training by fighting. Let's begin. Letting out a long breath, Lin Feng stepped onto the stairs again. However, this time, he didn't have the purple crystal spear in his hand. Instead, a thick murderous aura shot out and gathered in his fists. In an instant, his entire aura changed. Sparrow kill. The source of the mysteries was the murderous aura. Comprehending by fighting, Lin Feng started a new rhythm and melody. At this moment, not far from the great array, the demon Kuei Tu sent off lamb talk tea. A cold smile appeared on his face, and he looked up to the sky and laughed. Jia jia, jia jia. The hoarse and unpleasant laughter was like coins scraping on glass. Every word gave people goosebumps. His original form appeared behind him. It was a ferocious tiger with blood-red eyes. One of the 4 emperors of the demon race, the Blood Tiger clan. The strength of a sage king surged. Third brother, you have to work harder. Don't let me down. Kuei Tu smiled coldly and arrogantly. As for the heavenly treasure, don't get involved. It's not that I'm stingy, but I don't have the strength yet. With a cold glint in his eyes, Kuei Tu turned into a flash of light and disappeared on the spot. There were afterimages, and his strength was extremely terrifying. His current body and the existence of a powerful soul had created the birth of a demon that was 100 times more terrifying than before. His existence would definitely affect the rhythm of the entire great Magi Demon War. And the direction he was heading in, it was where the fearsome ground was. Kuei Tu had discovered the heavenly treasure. Chapter 1324. Boom, boom. The fist aura exploded. It was mixed with the realm of the spear, but the strength of the fist as a spear could not be unleashed. Lin Feng faced the silver figures, his killing intent surging. Even so, compared to the invincible Yun Qi, he was still lacking. However, it was done deliberately. He was fighting for the sake of fighting. This was his own cultivation. Sparrow kill. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with determination, and the killing intent released continued to increase. The Tao of Strength. The derivation of the Tao of Strength. If the Tao of Slaughter was a Tao of cultivation, then the esoteric Sparrow kill was an extension of the Tao, an existence that fully unleashed the power of the Tao of Slaughter. It was simple and direct, one of the essences of the Tao of Strength. This was a move that he had comprehended in the Sparrow King prison. The concept of the esoteric Sparrow kill is an independent move in the early stages. After comprehending it to a certain realm, the Sparrow kill is an existence that can be added to the fist and even above the spear. Lin Feng's killing intent was revealed in his eyes. He crazily killed the silver figures one after another, completely immersed in it. When the killing intent reached the extreme, it was an existence that could blind one's heart. However, if this was controlled by the killing intent, it was not the real Sparrow kill. It was going down the wrong path. Just like the gray energy, Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Where the gray energy came from and what was behind it was still a mystery. However, there was no need to care about it now. Starfold Dance may also be integrated into the spear, but it is more complicated. Compared to the Sparrow kill, it is just right. First, integrate it into the fist, integrate it into the body, then improve it step by step, integrate it into the spear, integrate it into the spear, integrate into the spear, and even the concept of the spear. At that time, not only will there be a breakthrough from the Saint level to the Saint King level, but the power of the spear will also be enhanced, surpassing the Saint King level in another aspect. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly. His eyes were bright, and his heart was filled with excitement. The path ahead was clear and wide, and it was a broad path. He only needed to move forward, comprehending through battle. As the clone began to comprehend, the main body also began to get busy. In fact, the chances of Yonkai's main body breaking through to the Saint King realm were not necessarily lower than his doppelganger, but his body's recovery ability was far inferior to his doppelganger's. So, comprehending through battle would undoubtedly be much less effective. On the other hand, Even if his main body broke through to the Saint King realm, his strength would not increase as much as his doppelganger's. To be precise, even if his main body reached the Saint King level, he was not 100% confident that he could pass these 108 steps. If his clone could break through, then his chances of breaking through this formation would be over 90%. However, there was no need for him to be idle right now. Perhaps the main body could comprehend it first? No matter what, one more possibility and one more hope was not a bad thing. Mystery, Jalawa's true body. Mystery, 100 Phoenix. Mystery, Blood Phoenix. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. In his true self-state, his eyes flickered to the limit, dazzling like stars. In terms of fighting prowess, the clone was superior to the main body, but in terms of comprehension, the clone was far inferior to the main body. Although the support-type special eyes had weak fighting prowess, there were always strengths and weaknesses. The top-notch support ability allowed the main body's comprehension ability to be maximized. The simplest is undoubtedly Jialawa's true body. However, Lin Feng shook his head. Of these three mysteries, the first one to be ruled out was Jialawa's true body. Not for other reasons, but because it was too simple. Unlike Sparrow Kill, Jialawa's true body was built on the foundation of a star technique and was compatible with it. It was not difficult to comprehend, and its power was not weak. Even if one comprehended the concept of mystery to the same extent as Sparrow Kill, they might not be able to break through to the Saint King level. Simply put, there were too few droplets. If I want to break through to the Saint King level with Jalawa's true body, I'm afraid my comprehension of the mysteries will have to reach a very deep level. It will take more time, Lin Feng thought to himself. The deeper one went, the harder it would be to master it completely, even if it was the simplest mysteries. Mysteries 100 Phoenix and Blood Phoenix. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as the display and comprehension of the two mysteries appeared in his mind. He also recalled the situation of his cultivation back then. The mystery, Blood Phoenix, was something he had learned in the Blood Cook mystic realm. It was like a phoenix dyed in blood, roaring loudly above his head. That was in the ancient Phoenix clan. The existence of the ancient Phoenix Condor contained endless secrets. Just like this place, it was also the existence of the Array Core. The mystery 100 Phoenix was his mother's ultimate move. He had witnessed its power with his own eyes. Even if it was only a tenth of its tiny power, it could kill foemen. The mystery 100 Phoenix was far superior to the mystery Blood Phoenix. If the droplets of the Blood Phoenix were 1,000 droplets, then the 100 Phoenix would have 10,000 droplets. The difference was huge. Mother once taught me the display and comprehension of the 100 Phoenix. With the 100 Phoenix as a breakthrough point, I can break through to the Saint King level when the concept is still shallow. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he thought to himself. Scenes appeared in his mind one after another. It was not only the powerful power of the 100 Phoenix, but also every detail that his mother had taught him. It was deeply engraved in his heart. Using the 100 Phoenix to break through could be said to be the best choice and also the most stable choice. They were both of the Tao of Fire. Even if he encountered a bottleneck in cultivating the 100 Phoenix, he could ask his mother for help. She would definitely be able to help him resolve his doubts. It could be said that using this as a breakthrough point, the risk was small, and the strength of his future strength could be completely expected. But Lin Feng frowned slightly. In his mind, the afterimage of the ancient Phoenix Condor lingered. The power of the Blood Phoenix and the blood-colored light had left an extremely deep impression in his heart. When he entered the Blood Cook mystic realm that day, it was as if something was guiding him, causing his heart to feel a connection. Until he entered the Array Core and comprehended the mystery Blood Phoenix, it was as if it was predestined. It had an extreme call to the Phoenix natal chart. In the Array Core, the Blood Phoenix even brought him into the mystery star. It was too rare. Huh. He closed his eyes and immersed his heart. Gently exhaling, his mind seemed to be immersed in a vast starry sky. A huge blood-colored phoenix constantly flashed in front of his eyes. The power of the starry sky flowed like a stream, permeating every part of his body. The feeling of perfection was still unforgettable. With a smile, Lin Feng opened his eyes. "I'll choose this." He clenched his fist, and a wisp of flame jumped out, crackling endlessly. The fluctuation of the flame had a casual and natural feeling, as if it was just a thought. If the choice of the avatar was more rational in judgment, then the choice of the main body was decided by the heart. "Let's be willful for once." Lin Feng smiled indifferently. Without a doubt, his heart felt that the blood phoenix had the advantage. Moreover, he also wanted to understand the secrets of the ancient phoenix condor and the existence of the blood-cook mystic realm. He believed that the mystery blood phoenix was the key. Hua! Lin Feng closed his eyes and calmed down. In almost the blink of an eye, he entered the state of enlightenment. His comprehension was extremely amazing. Two things at the same time. The effect of comprehending through battle was undoubtedly better than comprehending by himself, especially at the moment of life and death. The feeling of comprehension was even more profound and transparent. It was extremely penetrating. The avatar took up most of the time, but when the avatar recovered its astral origin energy and summarized the details of the battle and comprehended the mysteries, it was the main body's turn to enter the battle. The time was 8-2. The avatar took up 80% of the time, and the main body took up 20%. Since he wanted to break through to the Saint King realm, he had to focus on one. This was the most efficient application. At the location of the danger zone, ugh, a tired groan sounded. After being unconscious for a long time and recovering bit by bit in the array, Gu Sheng finally woke up. The paleness on his face had recovered a lot compared to before, but he still looked a little weak. Pressing his still dizzy head, Gu Sheng frowned and looked around. It was very unfamiliar. He had been unconscious for too long, and his injuries were too serious, especially the illusion, which directly impacted his soul. Coupled with Gu Sheng's arrogant self-esteem, he had constantly overdrawn his strength, causing him to be severely injured. Otherwise, with his strength and physique, how could he be so weak? His eyes flashed, and his heart was calm. After all, Gu Sheng was Gu Sheng, the pride of the ancient clan. Although his strength had not fully recovered, it was still 20-30%, and he was no longer as weak as before. After calming down, he slowly recalled the battle with the bull demon and the scenes after that. With an ugly expression, Gu Sheng pursed his lips. That defeat was still unforgettable, but it had dimmed a lot at this moment. More importantly, a heavenly treasure. Gu Sheng stood up and looked at the array in front of him. The palpitating feeling in his heart was still there, and his eyes flashed with a deep desire. Without a doubt, it was definitely the reaction of a heavenly treasure. In front of him, a stone wall was moving rapidly, and the power of the array was constantly emitted, bringing with it a deep illusion, causing Gu Sheng's face to darken even more. In his mind, the scenes before he fainted appeared one after another. Gu Sheng clenched his fists, and his veins popped out. I actually fell in a place like this. Gu Sheng's eyes flashed coldly, and he was furious. Losing to the Bull Demon King was excusable, but losing to him in this illusory fog made him feel deeply humiliated. Pung! His aura leaked out uncontrollably. Gu Sheng's expression became more and more ugly. Suddenly, as if he felt something, Gu Sheng turned around and opened his eyes wide. In the illusion in front of him, the calm surface of a lake suddenly trembled and ripples appeared. In an instant, an aura shuttled out, accompanied by the arrogant roar of a tiger. A huge aura surged, and the illusion broke apart. A ferocious tiger with blood-red eyes appeared in the void, as if it had descended from the heavens. Demon Kuei too. They faced each other, and their eyes met. The surging auras collided in the air, and the two could see the extreme hostility in each other's eyes. They were rivals for the heavenly treasure. In an instant, Pong, they attacked almost at the same time. In the illusion array, the two powerhouses engaged in the most direct battle. The tip of the needle against the tip of the wheat, and the lightning stirred up the fire of the earth. After the shocking battle in the hot land, the second round of fierce battle began in this dangerous land. The heavenly treasure's existence was like a high and mighty bright gem, symbolizing status and glory. Only the strongest could have it. Chapter 1325. Gusheng was undoubtedly unlucky. He was always so close to the heavenly treasure, but he missed it by a hair's breadth. His true strength was naturally stronger than the evil demon Kuei Tuesday. However, he had just recovered from his serious injuries, and it could even be said that he had not fully recovered. Even though the injuries on one's body were recovering quickly, the injuries on one's soul were recovering slowly. To the ancient race beings, the soul was the most important thing. The strength of every ancient race expert was built upon a powerful soul. This was the exact opposite of the wizard race. However, Gusheng was still a prodigy of the ancient race. He had been given the surname Gu, and he was as powerful as the ancient gods. Even if he only had 20% or 30% of his strength, he was definitely not a mediocre person. In addition, he had been defeated time and time again. Now, Gusheng's pride was completely provoked. He did not want to be defeated again. Even if he died, he did not want to be defeated a third time. On the other side, Kuei too was also secretly fearful. With his strength, he knew that the enemy in front of him was definitely not ordinary. Even if his body was weak and he looked so young, the power and aura hidden in his body showed that he was definitely not an ordinary opponent. However, there was no way out. The other party's goal was obviously the same as his, the heavenly treasure. If he did not get rid of this troublesome enemy, he would not be able to get his hands on the heavenly treasure. There was only one of the two. Meeting on a narrow path was destined to be a battle to the death. In the array, Lin Feng was obviously unaware of the changes in the outside world. In fact, regardless of whether it was the weakened Gusheng or the victorious Kuei Tu, either one of them could completely defeat Lin Feng's original body and doppelganger. However, some things were fated, and some fate had already fallen from the beginning. What mattered was whether one could grasp it. Boom! Boom! On the 108 steps, Lin Feng's doppelganger was like a hot knife through butter, advancing continuously. After experiencing repeated failures and tempering his strength in battle, his understanding of the arcane sparrow kill improved bit by bit. Regardless of whether it was the concept or the moves, they were all improving evenly. Just like honing his spear art, he continued to display it again and again, comprehending it again and again. He walked further and further on this path. At this moment, not only could the arcane sparrow slay be used independently, it could also be fused into one's fist. If using it independently was considered the first stage, then he had already reached the second stage and was not far from the third stage. Level 43. The 47th floor. On the 52nd floor. Not enough. Far from enough. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. His fist didn't contain too much of a concept. However, just his astral origin energy and ordinary physical strength were already extraordinary. His fist carried a dense, killing aura, displaying the way of strength in a unique form. It was mixed with a dense constellation Tao, mixed with a violent and overbearing aura of slaughter. Every time he punched out, one could faintly hear the cry of a vermilion bird. Shong! 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 The power of the fist was pure, and the murderous aura was even more vivid. Lin Feng's eyes were incomparably resolute. Even though he was at a disadvantage, he still resolutely executed every attack, every punch. If he didn't use anything else, and only used the profound mystery sparrow kill, even if he was killed in the end, it wouldn't change anything. If I can combine the profound mystery sparrow kill with my fists and pass through the first 72 floors, then I can officially enter the third stage. Fuse with the spear. Lin Feng's eyes were bright and clear. A dense killing aura was emitted, and his body and mind were completely immersed in it. In comparison, the progress of his main body was clearly much slower. It only occupied 20% of the time. His main body was mostly outside the array, using his soul and consciousness to comprehend the existence of the blood phoenix. Entering the Phoenix constellation, he entered the star where the profound mystery of the blood phoenix was. He felt a dense phoenix aura entwined in the star, and it was compatible with his phoenix natal chart. It was very comfortable, as if he was immersed in a hot spring. His body and mind were relaxed. Wah, peak grade eyes, peak grade sensing ability. Lin Feng was very calm. His mind was in a vast starry sky, and a huge blood phoenix was shining in front of his eyes. The starry sky energy was like a stream, flowing into every part of his body. His comprehension of the concept was extremely deep. Concept was the real existence of the constellation Tao. The mastery of the profound mystery was the manifestation of the concept. It was a kind of derivation ability. The comprehension of the concept determined the mastery of the profound mystery. Even if it was the same concept, different people would have different feelings when comprehending it. The profound mystery would also be ever-changing. Due to different comprehension abilities, the power of the profound mystery would be different. The profound mystery determined the comprehension of the concept. The two complemented each other and helped each other. If the concept was a big tree, then the profound mystery would be the end of the branches and leaves, or there would be other branches, or there would be fruits. It would be different depending on one's choice. Those with strong comprehension abilities and high compatibility would be able to quickly comprehend the profound mystery if they found the correct method. The concept was like the realm of spear techniques. And the profound mystery was the myriad of complicated spear techniques. One day and one night, the intense battle outside the array was shocking. Gu Sheng was someone who refused to admit defeat, and Kuei, too, was not a kind person. The demon race had always been known for their ferocity, not to mention Kuei, too, who had the title of evil demon. One human and one demon fought with all their strength. Both of them were covered in blood and were severely injured. However, neither of them was willing to admit defeat first. They were even more unwilling to leave this place. In fact, they were also unable to leave now. There were layers of illusory fog around them. With their strength, it was not difficult to pass through, but now it was harder than ascending to heaven. They were severely injured, and their souls were weak. They were easily affected by the illusory realm. However, the most important thing was that both Gu Sheng and Kuei Tu did not want to waste this last chance. Of the heavenly treasures, 2 of them had already been sold. Only one was left. This was the key to their ascension to the peak of the Douling world. How powerful was the heavenly treasure? From the battle between which Emperor Jiang and the red-yellow essence ape, one could see some clues. Which Emperor Jiang, who had just merged with the Sky Ark, was able to completely suppress the red-yellow essence ape in terms of strength. Of course, there was the factor of mutual restraint in strength, but the difference in strength between the two was definitely not as big as one could see. The red-yellow essence ape was also very strong, and shockingly strong. Otherwise, how could he stand out in the commander competition and sit on this position? However, just because of a single heavenly treasure, the originally evenly matched battle had turned into a one-sided situation. The battle between the two had already spread throughout the entire Douling world. Everyone knew clearly about the heavenly treasure. Huff, huff. They were panting heavily. After the fierce battle, Gu Sheng and Kuei Tu sat on the two sides, looking at each other without saying a word. However, the two of them had tacitly chosen to stop fighting. If they continued fighting, it would definitely end in mutual destruction. Even if one of them was lucky enough to kill the other, he would definitely be severely injured or even die together. Most importantly, no one had the confidence to win. The atmosphere was in a stalemate. Inside the formation, Lin Feng was in an abyss of suffering. It was another day and night of training. To the doppelganger that could recover every 15 minutes, it was a relatively long time. The improvement of the mystery sparrow kill was also faster than expected. It was difficult to go from the first stage to the second stage. However, it was faster than expected to go from the second stage to the third stage. Right now, he had already crossed the initial boundary. He had broken through the 72nd step. As for the fist, he had also changed it to the spear. He was working hard to fully comprehend the third stage of the mystery sparrow kill. Replacing the fist with the spear, there was no doubt about the increase in strength. However, the mystery sparrow kill was still unable to be perfectly integrated into the spear like the fist. This was partly because he had just entered the third stage, but more importantly, it was because Cloud Rise. Lin Feng frowned slightly. The spear moves were too complicated. It was much more difficult to integrate the mystery into the spear moves than he had imagined. Integrating the mystery into the spear was very simple. However, compared to the fist, it was not much of an improvement. The key to the third stage was the spear moves. Integrating the mystery sparrow kill into the spear moves would produce a power greater than 1+1. This was the true third stage, a great increase in strength. If I focus on Cloud Rise, the power of the mystery sparrow kill will be difficult to unleash. However, if I focus on the mystery sparrow kill, Cloud Rise, it will lose its effect. Lin Feng frowned. This step was extremely difficult to cross. After continuous battles, his body was already covered in wounds. Facing the endless attacks of the golden figure, it was difficult to resist. The hesitation in his heart turned into indecision. Even the spear technique itself lost its power. In a situation where the two ends of the spear could not reach the shore, he was quickly defeated. His clone entered a state of recovery again. He pondered about the integration of the mystery sparrow kill with the spear moves and entered a deep state of isolation. Using the gaps, his main body entered the array within the array and climbed the 108 steps. Compared to his clone, his main body was indeed much weaker. Until now, he had not been able to reach the 72nd step and see the golden figure. However, it did not matter. On the path to the Saint King realm, it was enough to focus on one path. Moreover, his understanding of the Blood Phoenix mystery here was not as deep as it was in the Blood Sauté secret realm, nor was it as deep as it was in the Blood Phoenix mystery realm. Boom! Boom! The flame sparkled. Lin Feng was calm. The bloody light condensed. His casual attacks carried the power of the Blood Phoenix. It was as if there was a blood-stained phoenix floating behind him. The bloody light in his eyes spread. He could clearly sense the existence of the Blood Phoenix behind him. It was as if there was an invisible thread connecting it to his Phoenix natal chart. It was very clear and very comfortable. Devouring fire. Lin Feng moved lightly. His eyes were clear. The flames in his hand shone. The power of the Blood Phoenix was clearly integrated and displayed. It was not as persistent as the mystery sparrow kill. Right now, his main body seemed to be driven by his heart. Feeling the existence of the Phoenix natal chart and the Blood Phoenix, he seemed to have returned to the time when he was cultivating and saw the huge Blood Phoenix. It was very clear. Bang! Bang! His heart beat lightly. In the middle of the battle, Lin Feng unconsciously closed his eyes. For some reason, he felt a familiar yet strange connection. It was as if he could see the gigantic Blood Phoenix behind him. It was as if he could feel the distant Phoenix constellation ringing in his ears and appearing before his eyes. It was so close, so touching. Chapter 13:26. He could do whatever he wanted. The blood-red light enveloped his entire body. It was as if his body was covered by the blood-red light. In his mind, he could clearly see the blood-red phoenix combining with his body, perfectly blending into it. He could completely feel the existence of the phoenix life plate, as if he was possessed by the blood phoenix. At this moment, every part of his body seemed to be burning. He could clearly feel the flames, and the power of the flames was even more terrifying. Boom! The engulfing fire burned brightly. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. A blood-red phoenix flashed behind his body, howling loudly. There seems to be a blood phoenix living in my body. It's really magical. Lin Feng didn't control the soft chant of heart at all. The flames moved according to his heart, bringing with them a thick blood-red light, perfectly blending with the flames. Bang! There was a violent explosion in front. The silver figure charging at the front seemed to have no resistance. With just one flame attack, it disappeared. Sparks flew in all directions. The engulfing fire rose again, and this time, it was more suitable and agile. Hum! The flames were hot, moving according to his heart. So fast, Lin Feng was secretly amazed. He felt that the flames in his hand were far more condensed than before. Every time the engulfing fire was blasted out, it brought with it extreme changes. It was as if he was wearing a layer of clothes, as if he was holding a weapon. The blood-red light gathered around, and the engulfing fire burned everything. It was like a dream. In just the blink of an eye, the defense line formed by the 5 silver figures was declared broken. The 62nd floor, the 5 silver figures were even stronger than before. They whistled and arrived. Their excellent cooperation was something that the original body couldn't pass before. But this time, it was as if the 5 figures in front of him didn't exist. He didn't even use the more powerful rebirth fire. Just the eruption of the engulfing fire was difficult to stop. The flames burned again and again, and the mysterious blood phoenix appeared again and again, making the silver figures unable to fight back. Suppression. True suppression. I really didn't expect it. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. The realm that the doppelganger has been searching for and couldn't reach with all his strength, but the original body can easily complete it. So this is the feeling. With a faint smile, Lin Feng followed suit. The profound blood phoenix had not only fused with his body, but had also fused with his devouring flames. Even his astral origin energy had fused perfectly with it. They both cultivated the Tao of fire and were both phoenixes. There were too many similarities between them, and there was also a large amount of compatibility between them. Most importantly, he had a deep understanding of the profound mystery of the blood phoenix. No wonder Shun said that the comprehension of a profound mystery doesn't depend on how much it helps one's strength, but on, is the degree of compatibility in your heart sufficient? It was only at this moment that he truly understood this sentence. Being able to comprehend and being suitable for oneself was the true essence of the profound mysteries. This was because comprehending such profound mysteries would yield twice the results with half the effort. In the same amount of time, one would be able to comprehend even deeper. Lin Feng had a valiant smile on his face as he comprehended the use of the profound blood phoenix. Again and again, again and again, it was as if waves of energy were entering his body. It was like the energy of the constellation itself, but also like the existence of the heavens, allowing him to see through many things. He didn't understand, but it didn't matter. Fight! The mastery of a profound mystery was the same as the comprehension of a concept. It required time to temper it and battle to consolidate it. His strength was still not 100% stable. It was like a big tree bearing fruit. Just bearing fruit and maturing fruit were two completely different feelings. His eyes lit up. Lin Feng fought to his heart's desire. The power of the blood phoenix was released for the first time, causing the power of the flames to increase tremendously. Its power exceeded the spear, move, clouds rise, used by his main body. This was because the profound mystery of the blood phoenix was diverse and comprehensive. It could be used in both offense and defense. Its diversity made up for the lack of offense. The obstruction of the 5 silhouettes was quickly broken. In the blink of an eye, he stepped from the 62nd step to the 67th step. It was also the only time that 6 silver silhouettes had appeared on the 72nd step. Their strength was quite strong, and needless to say, their tacit understanding had already reached the peak of what the silver silhouettes could achieve. Back then, even his doppelganger had to spend a lot of effort to cross this step. As for his main body, it was only his first time here. Blood Phoenix. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. The flames bloomed. He attacked with the fire of devouring and defended with the fire of rebirth. Releasing 2 different flames at the same time wasn't a big problem for him at the moment. However, He didn't expect that even with the profound mystery of the Blood Phoenix, it wouldn't be too difficult. The Blood Phoenix seemed to be an energy that existed in his body. It was of the same origin as the astral power. This feeling was extremely intimate. Power. It completely erupted. The strength of his main body was no less than that of his doppelganger at this moment. Fight. A crazy battle. Even though his doppelganger had recovered his strength, his main body couldn't stop. He crossed the 72nd step and chased after the doppelganger step by step. Previously, his doppelganger had used the spear move Cloud's Rise to cross the steps. Now, his main body was doing the same. Moreover, there was no fancy trick. He crossed it face to face. The powerful Blood Phoenix was domineering and invincible. 77th step, 83rd step, 87th step. Lin Feng broke through all the levels. It was as if he was crazy. Once again, he killed 4 silhouettes and arrived at the 91st step. It was also a place that his doppelganger had always found difficult to cross. At this moment, his main body came to challenge him. Oh no! Lin Feng suddenly reacted. However, he had been winning consecutively. He seemed to be a little dizzy and forgot to continuously use the profound mystery of the Blood Phoenix. At this moment, his astral power had been consumed a lot. He didn't need to pay attention to the flames. Even if the devouring fire was exhausted, he still had the rebirth fire. It was driven by the Phoenix life plate and was endless. However, the astral power was different. It couldn't be replenished immediately. Wah! Wah! In front of him, 5 auras appeared instantly. Golden light illuminated the sky. The powerful combination that had defeated his doppelganger consecutively appeared once again. Lin Feng pursed his lips. However, there was no way out in time. He had to fight. I'll fight, Lin Feng secretly thought. There was no pressure. Losing wasn't a big deal. However, he really wanted to cross this step. Bang! Bang! The flames burned fiercely. A Blood Phoenix seemed to appear in the void. It was arrogant in the void. It had a true, domineering aura of a king. 1 against 5, there was no fear. Of course, it wasn't easy. The golden figures on the 91st to 95th floors were able to defeat his doppelganger consecutively. They didn't rely on luck. They relied on true tyrannical strength. A Peak Saint Realm Master challenging 5 Saint King Realm Lorder Saint Kings was extremely difficult, even if the strength of his main body was not inferior to his doppelganger. This step was too high. Boom! 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 Again and again, his main body was injured again and again. Although he had consumed a lot of astral power and consumed a lot of the devouring fire, his body hadn't been injured at all. However, it was different this time. Facing an unprecedentedly strong enemy, facing a test of tenacity, his main body was beginning to be unable to endure. At this moment, his astral power was on the verge of exhaustion. When it rains, it pours. He had reached the point of despair. He used the profound mystery of the Blood Phoenix again and again, drawing on the last bit of strength in his body. It was as if he was being squeezed dry. His body was severely injured. Along with his perseverance and persistence, Lin Feng unknowingly entered an inexplicable state. His body seemed to be out of control. His heart seemed to be separated from his body. His soul seemed to be independent. This feeling was extremely clear and profound. He was clearly in the middle of an intense battle, but he couldn't hear the slightest sound. It was as if his soul had left his body. It was as if he had died. He had inexplicably left the battlefield. The surrounding time and space were constantly changing, but his heart was like dust. His senses were extremely deep and clear. Wah! A white light flashed in front of him. It was as if his consciousness was hazy. It was as if the world was spinning. In an instant, he had entered a new world. Zheng, a loud sound resounded. The 7 stars that appeared in front of him completely lit up. Those were the 7 main stars. They slowly moved away from him and converged into the Phoenix constellation. At this moment, in the area where the secondary stars were shining, he saw a star shining brightly. Blood Phoenix, Lin Feng whispered. Although it was far away, he could inexplicably feel it. This star was very strange. It was as if he could touch it. It was as if it was right in front of him. The clear comprehension was as if he had entered the Phoenix constellation. He had built a bridge between himself and the constellation. The specks of starlight scattered towards him. A red light flashed in front of his eyes. It was dazzling. Why? Why? A dense star power appeared in a split second. It enveloped his entire body. It enveloped every inch of his skin. It enveloped his soul. It enveloped the existence of the Phoenix natal plate. It was bright and dazzling. The Phoenix natal plate was blooming with light. In his body, it was as if there was a phoenix howling. The sound of the clanging resounded in his ears. The dense energy gathered in his body. It merged into his cells and changed every inch of his skin. Every cell, every meridian, bones, blood. This was a transformation, a brand new transformation. The existence of the star source power was also constantly changing under the cover of the dense star power. The true power of the constellation. The existence of the constellation, Tao, has finally arrived. Lin Feng was calm. His expression was indifferent. Other than the initial worry and confusion, his heart was completely clear now. This transformation was slightly different from what he had imagined. After all, what he had always wanted to break through was his clone and not his main body. But sometimes fate was so strange. What you wanted might not be obtained, but what you had never thought of, it would mysteriously appear. Just like fate, just like luck, and now his main body was like that. Without deliberately guessing and cultivating it, he had unknowingly comprehended the mystery of the blood phoenix and obtained a recognition of the Phoenix constellation. The descent of the power of the heavens, the convergence of the constellation Tao, and the transformation of his entire body. All of these represented one thing. He was about to break through, reaching the Saint King level. Chapter 13:27. It was finally here. Although his doppelganger was still some distance away from breaking through, his main body's breakthrough. How could this not be a joyous matter? Pump, pump, pump. The golden figure's attacks were endless. However, facing his main body that was protected by the power of the heavens, even if his main body had no defensive ability, the golden figure could not hurt his main body at all. This was the protection of the heavens. It was the protection and recognition of his natal constellation. Lin Feng, at the moment when he was about to be defeated, finally had a moment of joy. I've been waiting for a long time. His eyes flashing, Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. His body had regained its senses. It should be said that his soul had returned to his body. He could clearly feel every change, no matter which aspect it was. The changes in his body were like a baptism. The gathering of the constellation path made him seem to have a part of the power of the Phoenix constellation. And this power was a very crucial existence. I can sense the constellation more clearly. Greatly increase the sensitivity of the constellation, sensing ability. Unleash the true power of the mysteries, driven by the constellation path. His eyes sparkling, Lin Feng's expression was clear. He had finally stepped onto the highest level of the Douling world. After the transformation, he no longer had to be wary of any powerhouses, because he would also stand at the top of the pyramid and have the absolute strength to fight for everything, to control his own destiny. And this would be the beginning of him becoming the emperor of the human race. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. From the saint level to the Saint King level was a qualitative breakthrough. Just like from a Star Lord level to the Star Sea level, and from the Star Sea level to the Saint level, it was a complete transformation, an upgrade in the level of life. Especially after a martial artist reached the Saint level, his body could no longer be improved through simple cultivation. Breaking through to the Saint King level would become a key. In theory, the physique of every level of the Saint King level was the same. Of course, different Saint King level powerhouses had differences, and Saint King level powerhouses had various possibilities to improve their physique in the process of cultivation. For example, eating natural treasures, absorbing and refining star fruits, cultivating and comprehending various mysteries, and even fusing with heaven-level treasures. There were many methods, but basically it was impossible to exceed the benefits of the transformation from the saint level to the saint level. The transformation was enormous. Swish, swish. The Tao of constellations condensed the most fundamental power of the constellations and baptized the body. Lin Feng closed his eyes, clearly feeling the changes in every inch of his skin. The transformation of his cells had increased in activity, as if they were transforming his own body. He was no stranger to the Saint King realm. He had asked his mother and grandfather, so he knew a lot about them. After all, this was a process that he had to go through. This is the first stage of the evolution of life. This is the first time the Tao of constellations has merged into my body, paving the way for me to truly transcend the levels of life. A starry sky powerhouse. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. He was very clear in his heart. What was a starry sky powerhouse? They were experts who could survive in the starry skies. With his current body, no matter how powerful he was, he couldn't escape the shackles of the world. He couldn't adapt to the power level of the starry sky, especially when his life force still needed air. But that was not the case for starry sky powerhouses. That was an existence that was truly self-sufficient and transcended the power system. And the Saint King realm was the foundation of a starry sky powerhouse. It was the most fundamental existence of a tall building, allowing his body to first adapt to the Tao of constellations and begin to adapt to the new level of life. The transformation of the star source energy also gradually moved towards the true power of the starry skies. Even if it was the same type of star source energy, there were different levels of power. Just like humans, there were infancy, adolescence, and even adulthood. If the star source energy of the Saint King realm was the infancy, then the star source energy of the Saint King realm was the adolescence. Whether it was the power characteristics or other aspects, it surpassed the Saint King realm. Just the star source energy alone has surpassed the peak of the Saint King realm by a lot. And the breakthrough of the body, with the original body's previous strength, it is definitely stronger than the current state of the clone. Even if it can't be compared to powerhouses like which Emperor Jiang and the red-yellow essence ape, it is comparable to a divine beast. In the heavenly god realm, my body, it is definitely one of the strongest few. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, full of confidence. The improvement of the mysteries, the integration of the Tao of constellations, the transformation of the star source energy, plus the rapid growth of his body. His original body would soon welcome a brand new level. Moreover, it would be stronger than he had imagined. There should be a 50% chance. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Although he was not sure how strong the original body of a Saint King realm beginner was, nor did he know how dangerous the last few steps of the 108 steps were. At least judging from the current situation, the possibility of him being able to pass the 108 steps was definitely more than 50%. He was 100% sure. A long time passed. It was fast, but it was also slow. Especially under the constant attacks of the golden figures, their bodies were transforming and changing their strength. They don't have true intelligence. Lin Feng looked at the golden figures and knew a thing or two. If they had true intelligence, they would not waste their strength to attack him, who was protected by his natal constellation. Even so, these golden figures still had quite a strong strength. If human powerhouses can learn these cooperation abilities, coupled with their original intelligence, how powerful would they be? With the reproductive ability of the ancient witches and sorcerers, as well as all kinds of variability, the potential of humans has never been truly unlocked. They are definitely a race that has been underestimated. The strength of the ancient witches and sorcerers is limited, but the strength of humans is the strength of true potential and strength. The future is limitless. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as his heart moved. Now that his main body was powerful, his horizons were broadening. The outbreak of the Third War between the witches and demons had caused the human race to survive in the cracks. The southern region was like a lone plank floating on the sea, floating alone. However, this trip to the witch realm had allowed him to understand a lot understand a lot, and comprehend a lot. Humans were far from truly unlocking their potential. There was still a lot of room for improvement. Time. As long as there is enough time, humans will definitely be able to turn the tables. At that time, even if the powerhouses of the southern region can't be compared to the witches and demons, they will at least become a decisive chess piece and factor. No one can underestimate them. Right now, if I can obtain the rare treasure without anyone knowing, it will definitely be the icing on the cake, and twice the result with half the effort. Lin Feng was full of confidence. The path in front of him was wide and bright. 6 hours. After a full 6 hours of transformation, his body gradually calmed down. So strong. Lin Feng's eyes burned. His body felt full of strength and toughness, completely different from the level of a saint. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Looking at the continuous attacks of the 5 golden figures in front of him, he didn't feel the slightest bit of fear. Even if it was only the transformation of his body, he could defeat these 5 golden figures in a short period of time without suffering any injuries. Moreover, there was also the recovering and growing star origin energy. There was also the Tao of constellation and the changes of the mysteries. The current him was very strong. Hua! In his hand, the purple crystal spear shone. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He didn't use the mystery of the blood phoenix. He only attached the flames of rebirth, accompanied by the blooming of the new star origin energy. In front of him, the leader of the golden figures attacked wildly. His strong attack borrowed the power of the formation, and his speed and strength coexisted. Previously, his clone couldn't use the advantage of his body to defeat him, but now, his main body was like an illusion, dodging easily. His speed was even faster than his clone. The transformed body had truly reached the peak of the Douling world. Not to mention the other heavenly gods, he was even better than the sorcerer tribe, who was at the peak of the saint level. The body of a divine beast. Lin Feng's eyes were shining. This is the power of the Phoenix natal plate. The essence of the true divine beast blood is completely activated. Lin Feng was secretly happy. Suddenly, he didn't know that what he fused with back then wasn't just ordinary Phoenix blood, but also the Phoenix blood that had been reborn from the flames. The difference between the two was huge. In terms of physique, the Phoenix wasn't the best among the divine beasts, but the Phoenix that had been reborn from the flames was completely different. This was the characteristic of the Phoenix, the true source of the Phoenix's strength. Now it was all revealed. Clouds rise. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Facing the encirclement of the 5 golden figures, he didn't panic at all. At this moment, his heart was calm as he looked at the 5 golden figures. It was as if he was standing high and looking down on everything, and victory was in his hands. These 5 golden figures might be able to defeat his clone and his main body, but they definitely wouldn't be able to defeat him now. Chi! The purple crystal spear shone brightly, and the astral origin power erupted. Lin Feng had completely transformed. On the 96th floor, the golden figures changed from 5 to 6. Their cooperation was more tacit, and their strength was more powerful. However, they could only fight to a draw with Lin Feng with the spear. They couldn't even defeat him. And this was only after breaking through to the Saint King level. Lin Feng had less than 30% of his strength. The true power of a god was far from erupting. One had to know that not to mention the strength of a fire spirit master, even the strength of a heavenly soul master had greatly increased. His soul had already transformed. His main body had reached a near-perfect state. It was difficult to estimate how strong his true strength was. In less than 100 seconds of battle, the 6 golden figures with extremely precise cooperation announced the end. As the commander-level existence was killed, the other 5 golden figures were defeated like a collapsing mountain. Soon, they disintegrated one by one, and Lin Feng, unharmed. Chi! Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and the flame in his hand was as tall as the sky. All the obstacles in front of him had disappeared. As the last golden figure was killed, the scene in front of him changed. In an instant, 7 auras descended, bringing with them 7 different kinds of brilliance, bringing out the most powerful and final obstacle. The 102nd floor to the 108th floor. The final test. Chapter 1328. 7 Auras. 7 Early Stage, Saint King Realm Human Experts. The leader was still a commander-level golden figure. Compared to the previous 6 golden figures, there was only one more. But the feeling was completely different. Connecting into a line, the 7 of them are like one. There are no flaws at all. No matter which side I attack from, I have to face 7 people at the same time. What a powerful cooperation. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. In his heart, he was extremely moved. The appearance of the 7 golden figures in front of him symbolized the final test of the heavenly treasure, and also the final resistance. According to the previous pattern, the 7 figures represented the 102nd to 108th floor. Chi, rumble, boom. The formation formed by the war god, martial god, heavenly spirit master, and heavenly soul master was invincible and had both offensive and defensive capabilities. The combination of the 7 auras brought about the strongest power of the formation. The 7 early stage Saint King Realm human experts were comparable to a peak Saint King Realm expert. The tacit cooperation of the power attacked directly, broadening his horizons. It existed before. There was such a power among the human experts. Although their individual strength is inferior to the sorcerer race and the ancient race, humans can make up for all this with wisdom. With the strength of an early-stage Saint King Realm, they are comparable to a peak Saint King Realm. The potential of human experts is far from being fully realized. In this, Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and his heart was clear. If the core of the formation here was really a heavenly treasure, then the existence of this formation, the classic tacit cooperation of these humans, was probably a part of the heavenly treasure. If he could be compatible with it and truly possess it, perhaps he could unearth a treasure. The true treasure of humans was located. Compared to this, everything else was undoubtedly much more secondary. Come! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Bang! With a bang, the transformed astral source energy was released. Although it was 1 against 7, although the aura and strength of the golden figure far exceeded his, and he had shocking strength. But he was no longer the same person as before. Too strong. After reaching the Saint King realm, the increase in strength was terrifying. Boom! Boom! The light of the flames was resplendent. The true power of flames was displayed. With the power of the blood phoenix combined with the power of the constellation Tao, the power of provoking fire was displayed to the extreme. Moreover, it only used the devouring flame as the main body, and not the more powerful rebirth flame. Even so, its power was still frightening. Face to face, he used the clearest and most efficient method to break the perfect cooperation of the 7 golden figures. What a pity! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. With the 7 golden figures working together, whether it was in terms of attack or defense, they were comparable to a peak Saint King, but that was only on the surface and not their true strength. Deep in their bones, they needed the cooperation of the power of the formation. They needed to merge with each other in order to unleash their strength. Looking at the current situation, once the formation was broken, once a corner of it was disintegrated, its strength would be greatly reduced. In such a situation, how could a single peak Saint King Realm Master appear? At most, he would be injured. But now, boom! His aura was lofty, and the fiery light was multicolored. Wherever the flame passed, it was extremely domineering. Behind Lin Feng, a blood-red phoenix appeared as if it was engraved, clear and natural. Mystery Blood Phoenix. When he truly displayed his might, the increase in his strength was much greater than he had expected. The battle ended quickly. However, he did not kill all 7 golden figures, only leaving one behind. Facing the unknown, he could not be careless. After a series of fierce battles, his strength had been greatly damaged, especially the astral source energy that needed to be immediately absorbed and consolidated. As for other things, such as not adapting to the new Saint King level, they were all trivial matters. Recovery was inevitable. Chi, Chi. The doppelganger's movements were extremely fast. In a one-on-one battle, the golden figure was completely toyed with. It was necessary to stall for time. Huff, huff. His body changed. Lin Feng took deep breaths and faced it seriously. The sensitivity of his constellation had greatly increased. After breaking through to the Saint King level, his communication and connection with his natal constellation had increased by a lot. Just looking at his life soul, the changes in the miniature universe could be seen. At this moment, it truly looked like a starry sky. And this was only the beginning. Breaking through to the Saint King level was the beginning of becoming a true starry sky powerhouse. His recovery was faster than he had expected. When the strength of his main body reached the Saint King level, the improvement in all aspects was huge, especially his body. Those who did not know would think that it was just the body of a low-level Saint King human, just the body of a weak god. Who would have guessed that such an inconspicuous body actually had a physique that was comparable to that of a peak Saint King level sorcerer? Or even better, the body was comparable to that of a top divine beast. The recovery was extremely fast. His body did not suffer any serious injuries. He only needed to recover his astral source energy, and it would soon be overflowing. Although he might not need it in the future, no one knew what he would encounter after breaking through the 108 steps. For now, it was better to have more. In case of emergencies. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The flames around his main body were already dazzling. His aura had recovered to its peak. His strength had an indescribable sense of suppression. Now, his main body was much stronger than his doppelganger. After continuous accumulation, he finally transformed. Huff! The flames were bright, and the blood phoenix behind him proudly cried. It's over, Lin Feng said softly. Outside the array, they were cultivating. Gu Sheng and Kuei, too, were wary of each other, but they were not willing to make the first move. It was a complete stalemate. They knew very well that if they fought now, it would only be a draw. It might even end in mutual destruction. The fierce battle made the two of them clearly understand how strong each other was. Neither of them was a good person. Although the heavenly treasure was important, their lives were equally precious. Their eyes met, and cold light flashed. Neither of them relaxed for a moment, because they knew that each other was waiting for the other to show a flaw. One wrong move, and the whole game would be lost. Suddenly, boom, boom, rumble. The earthquake was intense, and the entire ground seemed to be moving in an instant. Up and down, it was chaotic. Even the surrounding illusory fog was turbulent, as if it had encountered some kind of tyrannical force. The entire surrounding environment changed. Whoosh, whoosh. Gu Sheng and Kuei, two's expressions changed. They could clearly sense the location of the array. The stone wall that was constantly changing directions and moving was also completely chaotic. The entire array seemed to have lost its backbone and was in a mess. The surrounding aura was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. They could not feel anything through the array, but there must be something wrong. Bang, bang, bang. Gu Sheng's heart beat violently, and his expression changed. He knew very well that feeling of palpitations. It was the same feeling that had appeared when he was fighting with the bull demon in the hot land. It was the feeling from the heavenly treasure. It was as if it had awakened, as if it was in harmony with the energy of the heavenly treasure. Oh no! Gu Sheng's eyes widened. At this moment, how could he not understand? Even the evil demon Kuei Tu's eyes were bloodshot as he came to his senses. There was still someone in the array. It was laughable that the two of them had fought so hard, but they did not know that someone had already entered the array before them. When the sandpiper and the clam fought, the fisherman would reap the benefits. Most importantly, the sudden change in the array showed the reason behind it. Someone had found the heavenly treasure. They had even touched it. Whoosh! In an instant, Gu Sheng rushed into the stone wall array. He no longer cared about the evil demon Kuei Tu, even if he was not far behind him. This was because he knew very well that this demon was no longer his enemy. To a certain extent, the two of them were in the same boat. He did not have any grudges with this demon in the first place. There was no need to fight to the death. If the demon still wanted to attack him at this moment, then he would be so stupid that no medicine could save him. It was obvious that the Kuei too was not that stupid. Almost at the same time, the Kuei too followed Gu Sheng into the stone wall array. The two of them, one in front and one behind, only had this huge array in front of them. They broke through the array as fast as they could and did not care about each other. Because of the benefits involved, the enemies of the two of them had quietly changed. Their target was the fisherman. The fisherman was Lin Feng. Breaking through the array within the array could be said to be breaking through all the defenses of the heavenly treasure. The heavenly ark, the light pillar, and the light artifact. Among the three, the heavenly ark did not seem to have any defensive system. The light pillar's barrier also caused some trouble in the hot land. The most troublesome and the strongest defense was undoubtedly the light artifact here. There were layers of trials, and each trial was more difficult than the last. Even if it was Gu Sheng who tried to break through, it might not be so easy. Just the consumption of star source energy alone was not something an ordinary peak Saint King could pass. But at this moment, everything was a glimmer of hope. Bang! 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 Lin Feng's heart raced, and his eyes lit up. He looked at the huge light artifact in front of him. It was no longer high and mighty, but not far from him. The feeling in his chest was unprecedentedly intense. His heart seemed to be about to jump out of his chest. Looking at the bright light artifact, he seemed to see a mirror through the light. A mirror that reflected the future of the human race. Lin Feng could not help but clench his fists. Even if he saw the light pillar in a hot land, it could not compare to the feeling he had now. I'm here. Lin Feng's lips curled up slightly. Although his heart was racing, he was not nervous. He was only slightly excited. After experiencing so many trials and tribulations, he finally saw it. He did not disappoint. This trip to the Sorcerer Realm was not in vain. Not only did he obtain so many Heaven Stage treasures and broaden his horizons, he even personally found the existence of this heavenly treasure. Now it was close at hand. Fate had been decided. However, would he really be able to merge with it and take it for himself? Lin Feng's eyes lit up, but he was not sure. However, there was no need to guess anymore. Ta! Ta! Step by step, he approached the proud light artifact. It did not feel like it was 1,000 miles away, nor was it surrounded by the aura of the illusory realm. At this moment, it was just quietly floating there, as if waiting for its owner. Could it be him? Tell me the answer. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. His heart beat violently, and his right hand reached out without hesitation to touch the heavenly treasure. Chapter 1329. What would the answer be? Lin Feng was looking forward to it. His bright eyes showed what he was thinking. He slowly stretched out his right hand. The light weapon was close to him, flashing with a dazzling luster. His heartbeat became more intense. The thumping sound was not only in his heart, but also in his ears. Lin Feng pursed his lips. He felt his right hand trembling, which made him nervous and perturbed. He was also very excited. Whoosh! Light shone in front of him. Lin Feng's heart trembled. He instantly felt like his heart had entered a mysterious world. It was as if he had entered a brand new world. Bang! Something exploded in his mind. The heart contract felt so familiar. The fluctuation of his heartbeat pulled his soul into it. Every heartbeat seemed to be connected to the pulse here. It was strange yet familiar. It was thick and heavy. It was filled with an aura as strong as the earth, but it was so warm. Boom! The shocking sound was like the creation of heaven and earth. A giant seemed to appear in front of him. It was an indescribable giant expert. He was indomitable. His appearance was like a huge tower, holding up the whole world. He held up the sky with one hand and supported the earth with the other. He had a domineering aura that made people unable to reach him. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Feng's breathing became rapid. He felt a sense of closeness to the giant. It was as though they shared the same bloodline, fusing together. It was like he was family, especially those eyes. Whoosh! Light flashed. The giant expert's eyes emitted different colors. It was hard to imagine that his left and right eyes would have such a feeling. They were different but had the same aura. However, it was not strange to him at all, because they were very similar. Vast star eyes, vast star eyes. Lin Feng was stunned. At this moment, another image appeared in his mind. It was the one that appeared when he was still in Sherluo County. That pair of eyes was so similar to the one he saw now. It's him. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. It was the second time he saw the same giant expert. Although he didn't know who he was or where he came from, it was clear that he was closely related to this light artifact, a heavenly treasure. Just like him, he was also unsure of the exact number and origin of the light artifact. Otherwise, why would he come here and be so compatible with this light artifact? How could the throbbing of his heart be so shocking? It had long been predestined. Outside the array, whoosh, whoosh, two figures sped forward. Even though both of them suffered heavy injuries, Kuei Tu and Gu Sheng were much stronger than Lin Feng when he was charging through the array. Although the stone wall formation was mysterious, it could not restrict them. However, due to their distrust of each other, both of them had obviously held back. Even so, he was still moving forward quickly. This was especially true for Gu Sheng. His heart palpitated and he felt uneasy. His forehead was covered in cold sweat and he felt weak. This was not the first time he had experienced such a feeling. That day, when he fought with the bull demon, he had felt the same. That was, the heavenly treasure had been snatched by someone else. Clenching his fists, Gu Sheng was extremely anxious. He could not wait to charge out of the array and head straight for the heavenly treasure. At this moment, he was extremely regretful that he did not wake up earlier. He even thought about how he was blocked by the illusory fog and felt deeply humiliated because of the imbalance in his mentality. This time, he had suffered too much. If he could not even obtain a single heavenly treasure, he would lose all his face in this trip to the sorcerer tribe's territory. How could he still have the face to return to his tribe? Compared to Gu Sheng, Kuei Tu's thoughts were undoubtedly much simpler. His pair of cold eyes flashed as he followed closely behind Gu Sheng. Firstly, he was safe and had the initiative in his hands. Secondly, with Gu Sheng leading the way, he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Even if something happened, Gu Sheng would bear the brunt first. However, who is it? Kuei Tu was filled with killing intent. The battle intent in his heart had already condensed, and he was ready to fight at any time. As long as it was someone he could deal with, he would not be stingy. No matter who had the heavenly treasure, he would snatch it away. If he could grasp this opportunity, with his strength, he could definitely compete with the sorcerer Emperor Jiang. It would be greatly beneficial for him to unify the Douling world. Let's wait and see. The one who will have the last laugh will definitely be me. Kuei Tu's expression was ferocious. Bang! His mind was greatly shaken. The four words were deeply imprinted in his mind. Lin Feng's pupils dilated. Shield of Truth. The energy of the array was unusually clear. It was like a torrential downpour, and like a hurricane, it deeply enveloped him. That was the purest energy. It was extremely similar to the energy of the illusory fog outside and the aura of the gold and silver figures in the array. It was like a clear spring that directly entered the depths of his soul. Sizzle. Sizzle, sizzle. With the connection in mind, Lin Feng slowly closed his eyes. The feeling of the connection was so familiar and clear. With the fusion of bloodlines, he did not need to do anything, nor did he need to deliberately seek anything. He only needed to relax his body, relax everything, use his heart to feel its existence, use his body to welcome the arrival of this energy, and have intimate contact with him. Shield of Truth is indeed a shield. Lin Feng thought to himself. When he first saw this light tool, he felt that it was shaped like a shield. Now he was completely sure. Even though it was such an inconspicuous defensive treasure, it was still a heavenly treasure. No matter what type it was, it had its own special abilities. It could not be ignored just because it was a defensive type. Even if it was a defensive type, a heavenly treasure also had an offensive ability. What was the Shield of Truth? Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he smiled slightly. Thinking of the illusory fog outside, he understood. Even though he had not merged with it yet, just from the test and the array setup just now, he knew that this Shield of Truth was definitely not simple. There were all kinds of offensive abilities within the defense, and it could be expanded greatly. How could it be underestimated? Furthermore, isn't my weakest point the defense? Lin Feng smiled faintly. Merging with the Shield of Truth could make up for his weakest point and fill in the gaps. No matter what, he was happy with what he had. After all, it was a heavenly treasure. To be able to obtain one meant that he was fated to be able to do so. Previously, he had never thought that he would truly obtain a heavenly treasure. His luck could not be better. There was no need to ask for anything else. Outside the array, the stone wall array was being broken through layer by layer. There is no need to mention Gu Sheng. She was talented and intelligent, and she had long been involved in the Dao formations. The demon Kuei, too, had lived for countless years, and he had considerable knowledge and experience. He also had some understanding of the Dao formations. Their attainments in the Dao formations were stronger than Lin Feng's. Naturally, breaking the array was a matter of course. Moreover, the obstruction of the stone wall formation was lacking the absolute power of the formation. The heavenly treasure had already started to merge. Whoosh! Whoosh! His body was like an arrow, illusory like a shadow. Gu Sheng and Kuei too temporarily stopped fighting. Under Gu Sheng's lead, they quickly passed through layer after layer of stone walls and gradually went deep into the array. At this moment, the defensive power of the array was not as strong as before. To the two who were at the peak of the Douling world, it was just a matter of waving their hands. Even if it was a stronger illusion, it would not be able to stop their footsteps. Especially Gu Sheng. The illusions in front of him exploded one after another. It was enough to show the anger in his heart. That day, he had been humiliated by these illusions. Pa! Pa! The star source energy was resplendent. The two experts charged straight in. They were fearless in the face of the second layer of illusions. In a short period of time, the tremors of the array stopped. The space also gradually became flat. At this moment, the scene in front of them finally became clear. Step! Step! Gu Sheng and Kuei, too, landed steadily on the ground. They were not far away from each other. However, their expressions changed drastically. They raised their heads to look at the sky. It was difficult to describe the feelings in their hearts at this moment. All kinds of feelings surged into their hearts. There were a total of 108 steps. Resplendent light enveloped a hazy figure, completely covering it. An extremely powerful energy. It was exactly the same as the reaction of the array's power. Thump! 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 His heartbeat quickened. Gu Sheng clenched his fist, his body trembling. Where the light weapon was, it was definitely the third heavenly treasure. Now, it was right in front of him. But, at this moment, it was already someone else's. Just as he and Kuei, too, were fighting to the death, someone else had already beaten him to it. He was one step too late. Let's work together. A low voice was heard. It was not the demon language, but the orthodox ancient language. That was the demon Kuei, too's voice. His sparkling voice looked at Gu Sheng, flashing with a demonic aura. However, Gu Sheng did not even turn his head. He would not even answer. Agree? What a fantasy! He was a heaven's pride of the ancient clan. He would rather die than work together with a demon. Bang! Using his actions to express his attitude, Gu Sheng's hands changed rapidly. He did not even care about Kuei Tuesday. After a period of recovery, his strength had improved a little. Rich star source energy gathered as a bright light flashed in Gu Sheng's eyes. He had already made his decision. Snatch! He was determined to get the last heavenly treasure. If he missed this opportunity, there would be no more. "Oomph." The disdainful voice came from the demon Kuei Tuesday. His cold expression carried some contempt, as if he disdained Gu Shang's meaningless self-esteem. Since they could not work together, Kuei Tu was not willing to fall behind. With his tyrannical body and strength, how could he let Gu Shang be the only one in front of him? Almost instantly, he shot out, heading straight for the light weapon in the sky. His star source energy sparkled. Strike first and gain the upper hand. While Gu Shang's eyes flashed, he hesitated for a moment and did not make a move. Instead, he chose to observe. Perhaps it would be advantageous for Kuei Tu to make the first move. However, there was no aura in the light weapon. He had no idea how strong this third party was. It was too risky to make a move directly. Moreover, looking at the shield-shaped light weapon, Gu Shang had a bad feeling about it. As he pondered, Kuei Tu's attack had already appeared. A fierce tiger with blood-red eyes soared. Its hands formed claws, and its aura exploded. It caused the heavens and earth to shake. Its power was endless. However, bang, there was a violent collision. Kuei Tu's expression changed drastically. Gu Shang, who was standing on the ground, also had bright eyes. That was Chapter 1330. It was a shield. The radiant shield emitted a dense aura. The radiant shield emitted a resplendent light with a powerful defense that made one's heart palpitate. Kuei Tu felt as if his claws were numb. His chest sank and his eyes dimmed. Layers of illusions attacked him from the front. Not only did it have defensive abilities, it also had layers of illusions. With a groan, Kuei Tu flew backward and clenched his teeth. He had suffered a lot from this attack, especially in front of Gu Shang. This made Kuei Tu lose face. However, he was experienced and was not affected by his emotions. Ta! He floated in the air and calmed his breathing. His demonic eyes looked into the distance and did not show off his courage. Active defense, Gu Shang thought. Others might not be aware of this situation, but how could he not know? That was the power produced by the heaven-grade treasure to protect its host during the fusion process. Its power depended on the degree of fusion and the strength of the heaven-grade treasure itself. However, from Kuei Tu's attack, its power could not be underestimated. At least, whether it was him or Kuei Tu, they were unable to do anything with their heavily injured bodies. Wah! A light flashed in front of him. It was Kuei Tuesday. His demonic eyes looked at Gu Shang with deep meaning. It was not a provocation. Kuei Tu's eyes were burning. What Gu Shang could see, he could also see. In fact, he understood it better than Gu Shang. This was because he had just suffered a hidden loss. Let's work together. Kuei Tu's voice was low as he made a second request. However, this time was different from the first time. The situation was different, and the meaning of the same words was different. But this time, Gu Shang hesitated. Facing this last chance, facing the heavenly treasure, Gu Shang hesitated. The change in his expression showed that he was conflicted and complicated. Compared to the first rejection, Gu Shang's answer was 2 seconds slower. However, Gu Shang's answer was still very clear. Pa! He closed his eyes and did not even bother to speak. His silence represented his decision. In fact, Gu Shang's heart was in turmoil. How could he be so calm? He didn't want to talk because he didn't want Kuei Tu to hear that he didn't mean what he said. In his heart, countless voices were telling him that this was his last chance. But he couldn't overcome his pride. Even if he were to die, he would not change his principles because this was the only thing he could be proud of. Idiot! Kuei Tu cursed, but he couldn't hold it in any longer. Glaring fiercely at Gu Shang, Kuei Tu knew what the answer was from his expression. With a ferocious expression and a flustered and exasperated expression, he quickly distanced himself from Gu Shang. He had personally witnessed just how powerful a heavenly treasure was. It was not impossible for him to break through the light artifact's defense, but even if he tried his best, he would only have a 20% to 30% chance of success. After all, he wasn't the only one here. How could he not be angry? If Gu Shang was willing to join forces with him, then the possibility of breaking through the light artifact defense would be at least 80%, and they wouldn't need to be as tangled up as they were now, unable to advance or retreat. Once the heavenly treasure was compatible, things would become unpredictable. Of course, it was still possible to kill that lucky guy, but the heavenly treasure might not necessarily fall into their hands. It might be damaged, or it might disappear along with its host. Compared to Earth-tier treasures, Heaven-tier treasures had stronger spirituality and self-awareness, as if they were real life forms. And the strength of an expert who had fused with a heavenly treasure was completely unknown. If he was already extremely strong, after fusing with the heavenly treasure, he would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Whether or not he could defeat him was still unknown. One had to know that any one of them was seriously injured. But at this moment, there was no other choice. Whoosh! Kuei too didn't hesitate, distancing himself from Gu Sheng and sitting cross-legged. The star source energy shone brightly, recovering his strength at the fastest speed. Every bit he could recover was a bit more. Gu Sheng's heart moved, and he also sat cross-legged, entering a state of self-recovery. No matter what, it was impossible for the two of them to kill each other at this moment, and it was meaningless. The lucky guy who was enveloped by the light artifact had already become their common competitor, or rather, an enemy. Heart connection. Lin Feng sat cross-legged, entering a deep state of consciousness. He didn't know that at this moment, outside, the two top experts of the Douling world were already eyeing him covetously, waiting for the heavenly treasure's defense to end before launching a fatal attack. With his strength, could he resist? No one knew. Even Lin Feng himself didn't know. Even if Gu Sheng and Kuei Tu's strength were less than 10% of their original strength, the foundation of these top experts was very deep, especially in the face of the temptation of a heavenly treasure. How many people could remain unmoved? No, this was an existence that was enough to make the entire Douling world go crazy. Hiss! Wisps of aura came into contact, and their souls were connected. Deeply comprehending the shield of truth, the energy connection, the connection with his heart, with his body, Lin Feng had a deep understanding. The illusions that appeared were both real and fake, especially that giant expert. The appearance of those eyes made his heart move deeply. Right now, whether it was his heavenly star pupil or heavenly star pupil, they had both reached the 9th level, the strength of a Saint King. The power in his state was even more terrifying. However, he still hadn't reached the limit. His eyes are the true heavenly star pupil and heavenly star pupil. Perfect fusion. Although the two don't have the same eyes, their aura is connected, and their abilities are also connected. They have truly become a pair of eyes. This is the perfect form of the heavenly star pupil and heavenly star pupil. Lin Feng was moved. Compared to the shield of truth, he had a deeper understanding of the eyes. The first time he saw the giant expert, he was still ignorant and was only Star-Lord. The power of the heavenly star pupil and heavenly star pupil was still in the budding stage, so he didn't understand it. But now, the power of the eyes had reached the limit, and what he saw in front of him was a deep understanding and comprehension. This was a great path. It guided him on the path of cultivation in the future, a way to become stronger. Double eyes, the ability of a heavenly soul master. Lin Feng thought to himself. Needless to say, the special eyes were helpful to him. It could be said that they were the strongest ability of his original body. Needless to say, they could help him comprehend cultivation. Even the only offensive ability, Vermilion Bird Attack, had helped him through countless difficulties. If he could upgrade his eyes again, his strength would definitely soar and reach an unimaginable level. By then, even if I'm only a beginner Saint King, I have the ability to compete with a peak Saint King. Lin Feng was sure. He was full of confidence. Brother, I don't understand. Xian Ming was confused. I don't understand either. Brother, why didn't you take action when you knew the existence of the third heavenly treasure? Questions flashed in Hudu's eyes. Di Jiang put his hands behind his back and looked worried. He said in a deep voice, I already have one. What's the use of having more? Even so, brother, you can take it first and then give it to your clansmen. Isn't it better? Hutu said again. Dijong's voice was calm as he frowned. What's the use of taking it by force? Xian Ming and Hutu looked at each other, but they didn't understand. However, Dijong was obviously not interested in explaining. He would naturally understand what he should understand. As for what he shouldn't understand, even if he understood, he wouldn't understand. Those who are fated will get it. Don't worry too much. Dijong's eyes were clear as he said coldly, obtaining the heavenly treasure doesn't mean everything. Heaven has fate, and people have misfortune. Many things are already destined. Being able to control one's own fate doesn't mean that one can control one's luck. Xian Ming and Hutu were confused by the hidden meaning in his words. They did not know what was going on. Dijong's eyes flashed and dimmed, but he controlled his emotions well and returned to normal in an instant. What's the situation now? Dijong changed the topic and asked. Hutu paused and hesitated slightly. It's a little strange. Oh. Dijong's eyes flashed slightly. The demon army no longer fled to the sea. Instead, they stopped in a wasteland surrounded by mountains, Xian Ming said in a low voice. Have you investigated? Dijong asked. I haven't found any records for the time being. There are no human mansions around, Hutu said slowly. It doesn't seem to be intentional. I heard that after the new commander of the demon clan was severely injured by you, the internal strife in the demon clan is very serious. The four emperors have different opinions, and the clan is in a state of disunity. It seems that the demon clan wants to fight to the death and save the situation with a face-to-face battle. That's not right. Half of the demon clan's vanguard should know that their strength is not as strong as the wizard clan, Xian Ming said in a low voice. Although he was simple and honest, it did not mean that he was stupid. That day, the demon clan's vanguard was divided into two. One of them wiped out the ancient wizard clan's joint forces, and the other was at the wizard clan's level. The strength of the two teams was almost the same. Right now, one team was defeated, and the other team was obviously not comparable to the wizard clan's army in terms of strength. They would only die if they fought face-to-face. I think there should be reinforcements, Hutu said with a calm smile. Anyway, the initiative is in our hands. We can advance or retreat. What's there to be afraid of? Wizard Emperor Dijong was silent. His expression was calm and composed. With his hands behind his back, Dijong looked at the sky. Hutu and Xian Ming looked at each other, but they didn't know what Dijong was thinking. The atmosphere fell into silence for a while. After a long time, with a long sigh, Wizard Emperor Dijong closed his eyes. There seemed to be countless secrets hidden in his heart. We are the ones who are passive, Dijong said softly. His calm voice seemed to contain helplessness, but it confused Hutu and Xian Ming. They didn't understand at all. Hutu was about to ask, but Dijong had already turned around and left. He said indifferently, Let's go. No matter what, this battle, it's inevitable. It was inevitable, just like Lin Feng's situation at the moment. The battle was about to start. He gradually came to his senses. He merged with the shield of truth and moved according to his heart. Lin Feng's consciousness had been restored. Instead, the aura of the shield of truth slowly weakened. The surrounding space changed because of the disappearance of the power of the shield of truth. It disappeared bit by bit, like an illusion. 2. Lin Feng still closed his eyes, but he could sense it deeply. His aura was vigorous, and the power of the shield of truth gathered in his body bit by bit. He felt a deep challenge and anxiety in his heart. The two auras outside were obviously not good people. They were very powerful. In particular, he couldn't be more familiar with one of the auras. Gu Sheng is here too. Lin Feng pursed his lips and clenched his fists unconsciously. Chapter 1331. A huge crisis. At this moment, Lin Feng truly understood the meaning of treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. Whether he wanted to or not, there were many things that he could not avoid. Even if he did not want to fight with these two experts, since the Shield of Truth was compatible with him, there was no way he could remove it. Moreover, he would not do such a thing. It was like being ordered to take off his clothes in front of others. If he did so, how could he raise his head in the future? I did not expect to attract two experts. Lin Feng thought to himself. Two people with such powerful auras made him feel a deep sense of danger. Not to mention, too, even if it was just one of them, he would not be able to fight back. Even if he had the Shield of Truth, it would be the same. He and Shaman Emperor Dijiang's control of the heavenly treasure was only at a preliminary level. They could only use it simply. The difference was that Shaman Emperor Dijiang could combine the heavenly arc with his ability. But what about him? The Shield of Truth was just a shield. Maybe its defense was strong, but being surrounded by two people, no matter how strong the defense was, there would be a time when it would collapse. Moreover, it was too difficult for him to unleash the true power of the Shield of Truth with his own strength. Doppelgangers were the most suitable for the Shield of Truth. But there was no way to change it now, and there was no time to think about these impossible things. Right now, he had to be prepared. There was not much time left. When the last aura of the Shield of Truth fused and the perfect fusion was completed, he had to fight, and it was 1 against 2, facing two experts who were far stronger than him. That day in the ancient southern region, he was played by Hui, who used his absolute strength to deal with him like a cat playing with a mouse. Now, these two, no matter who it was, could probably play with Hui like a cat playing with a mouse. Although he had improved greatly after becoming a holy king, but the possibility of winning was still infinitely close to 0. However, although their auras are strong, they're sometimes strong and sometimes weak. They seem to be injured. Lin Feng thought to himself, what could possibly injure such a powerhouse? There was only one possibility. The two of them probably fought fiercely before this, so they suffered quite heavy injuries. Lin Feng said to himself. His guess was pretty close to the truth. It was not hard to deduce. Humans had a deep-rooted weakness, and it was the same for the ancient race and the sorcerer race, not to mention the demonic race. A heavenly treasure was enough to make any expert in the Douling world go crazy. Sorcerer Emperor Dijiang and the red-yellow essence ape were the same. Although these two experts were powerful, there was still a gap between them and Sorcerer Emperor Dijiang and the red-yellow essence ape. If he could obtain the heavenly treasure, he would be able to compete with the shaman Sovereign Dijiang and the red-yellow ape. Who wouldn't want to? A three-way battle. Phew. Lin Feng exhaled softly and did not change his posture. As the color of the Shield of Truth dimmed, the danger was getting closer and closer to him. However, it wasn't as if he had no chance at all. At the very least, it was a fact that these two experts were heavily injured, and it was also a fact that they were wary of each other. If he could stall for enough time, perhaps he would still have a chance to survive. Pah! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. This was probably his only chance. It's him? Gu Sheng's expression kept changing. As the brightness of a Shield of Truth dimmed, not only could Lin Feng sense the strength of the two experts, but Gu Sheng and Kuei too could also sense it clearly. They could even see it clearly. Gu Sheng did not expect that the lucky person to obtain the third heavenly treasure would be Lin Feng. How could this be? Why did it have to be him? Gu Sheng's body trembled slightly. His eyes flickered and he was confused. He pursed his lips tightly, and his beautiful face was pale. His eyes were also filled with helplessness. In contrast, Kuei Tu's face was filled with a cold smile. His chances had increased greatly. Lin Feng was a beginner Sage King and posed no threat to him. Even if he had a heavenly treasure and was heavily injured, it did not matter. Even if a child was holding a huge saber, what was there to be afraid of? Kuei Tu's gaze landed on Gu Sheng, who was not far away, and his eyes were sparkling. Only the young, ancient tribe expert was his greatest enemy. This ancient race expert, who was so young yet so powerful, was even more frightening than he had imagined. His true strength was even stronger than his own. It was only because he was already injured that they were able to fight to a draw. If they were both at their peak, he might not be Gu Sheng's opponent. But now I should have a slight advantage. Kuei Tu's eyes were burning. Heavenly martial artists and heavenly gods were different. Although they were both 90% injured, heavenly martial artists were less affected. In the battle, just now, he had already felt that the young, ancient tribe expert soul was severely injured and could not use his strength at all. However, he still could not see how deep the young, ancient tribe expert's foundation was. The battle in the sorcerer tribe was still intense. Not only were Sage Kings searching for the third heavenly treasure, but martial saints were also searching for the meteor heavenly treasure. There were all kinds of battles and robberies. It was normal for the sorcerer tribe to be in a mess. Sorcerer King Jiang did not care at all. Just like how there was no limit to killing in the sorcerer tribe, it did not matter even if a martial saint was killed. Sorcerer King Jiang advocated the philosophy of the strong and the power of the forest. A true strong person had to be trained in countless battles of life and death. This was very important. Although Gu Sheng was powerful, he had been defeated repeatedly. Luck was one of the problems, but the most important thing was that he lacked a foundation. He had not experienced a battle of life and death and did not have a lot of experience. This led to his repeated failures. He was indeed very smart, but his IQ and EQ were completely different. He had a chance to fight for the heavenly treasure in a popular place, but he also had a chance in a dangerous place. However, what was the result? There were many things that one could learn from one's mistakes. The sorcerer tribe was not the only lively place. The 7 ancient regions and the 8 major regions of the human race were very lively. They were paying close attention to the battle between the sorcerer and the demon race, especially the 8 major regions of the human race. As the most loyal supporters of the sorcerer tribe, they were involved in every action of the sorcerer tribe. Every victory was celebrated. It was even more so now. The sorcerer tribe's army had already crossed the 8 major regions of the human race and was heading straight for the sea. It could be said that this was the first time they had taken the initiative in the battle between the sorcerer and the demon race. They had launched a counterattack. What did this mean? It meant that the sorcerer tribe's momentum had already suppressed the demon race. This was extremely rare even in the 2nd great sorcerer tribe. However, in the 3rd great sorcerer tribe, which no one thought highly of, the sorcerer tribe had turned the situation around at the beginning. No one expected that the sorcerer tribe would be the first to strike. Have you heard? The demon race is having an internal conflict. I know. The 4 emperors are about to fight. Haha, the demon race is indeed the demon race. A bunch of brainless things. Capture the leader first to capture the bandits. The sorcerer emperor is indeed powerful. He first defeated the demon race's commander and then let the defeated general go, causing a huge commotion among the demon race. Then, when the higher-ups of the demon race were in chaos, he personally led the army to counterattack and caught the demon race off guard. He has mastered the essence of the art of war. There was a chorus of praises. In the 8 major regions of the human race, people praised the sorcerer tribe and the sorcerer Emperor Jiang. At this moment, even if it was bad, it was good. Even if it was smelly, it was fragrant. Everyone seemed to have forgotten how the sacred masters of the 9 major regions of the human race had disappeared, and how the sorcerer emperor had abandoned them and sent them to be eaten by the demon race. It was very sad. However, this was the reality. The sorcerer tribe had indeed launched a counterattack. No one knew what the sorcerer Emperor Jiang was planning. Perhaps he had seen through the demon race's actions, or perhaps he had absolute confidence in his own strength, or perhaps he had no choice but to do so. There were too many possibilities. Even within the sorcerer tribe, there were many voices. This was because not only were there experts from the sorcerer tribe, but there were also experts from the ancient race. The sorcerer tribe could only unleash their true power when they worked together with the ancient race. The cooperation of 2 heavenly martial artists was far inferior to the cooperation of a heavenly martial artist and a heavenly god in terms of complementation and cooperation. One inside and one outside one close and one far away. This was the simplest and best cooperation that everyone knew. There's not much time left. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang muttered softly. His eyes were sparkling. In the dark night, the army moved forward quickly with an imposing aura. Riding on the momentum of their great victory, the Sorcerer Tribe's army was domineering and flattened everything. The densely packed group of experts galloped towards the demon race. It was as if no matter how many defenses the other party had or how many tricks they had, they would move with lightning speed and in the most direct way. Destroy everything. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. A bright light flashed in his hand. The Sorcerer Emperor Zhang's heavenly arc flashed. His power was terrifying and shocking. Raising his head to look at the sky, his burning eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. His calm face was filled with the aura of an ambitious and ruthless person. His hands suddenly clenched. The third heavenly treasure, finally. Is it about to be decided? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Light flashed, faintly discernible. His aura exploded. On the 108th step, the power of the Shield of Truth had gradually disappeared. In its place was a towering figure, looking down. Lin Feng was completely prepared, even if his strength was not good, but it did not mean that he would admit defeat. Gu Sheng and Kuei Tu had also temporarily stopped their recovery and stood up. Compared to Gu Sheng's calmness and indifference, Kuei Tu's body exuded a cold, killing intent. His demon-like eyes stared straight at Lin Feng with a deep threat. Revealing one's aura before the battle was very useful in a battle. It was also a very direct way to bring psychological pressure to the enemy. However, Kuei Tu had chosen the wrong person. Lin Feng did not know what fear was. His eyes sparkled like the fiery red sun, but also like the boundless starry sky, unfathomable. On the other hand, Kuei Tu pursed his lips. He was a little uneasy in his heart. He was clearly only at the beginner level of the Saint King realm, but he had such an aura. Who was this human youth? Where did his confidence come from? Was it because of the heavenly treasure? Kuei Tu's heart was in a mess. At this moment, if Lam Tok Ti was here, he would definitely tell Kuei Tu that this human youth in front of him was the king of the southern region of the human race. Lin Feng, bang! Like a cloud of dust exploding, an amazing power bloomed. On the 108th step, the last light and power of the Shield of Truth disappeared. Lin Feng, the fusion was complete. Chapter 1332. It was as if he had been reborn. Standing on the stairs, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. The star seal of the Phoenix constellation on his forehead flashed with a blazing light, as if it had come to life. His face had a hint of bleakness and naturalness, and his skin had become smoother and brighter than before. There was an indescribable feeling, and both his toughness and defense had greatly improved. The aura of a Saint King faintly seeped out, and his star source energy had been perfectly refined. The biggest change was in his left hand. It was a light shield, which was deeply imprinted on his left wrist like a brand. From afar, it seemed to be floating above his left hand, giving off a hazy and mystical visual sense. The clear patterns could be clearly seen, but if one focused on it, the world would spin and it would be dazzling. The Shield of Truth. It felt exactly the same as when Sorcerer Emperor Jiang merged with the heavenly arc. What? Gu Sheng's eyes flashed with a complicated light, and he pursed his lips. His extremely handsome face looked up at Lin Feng, but no one could tell what he was thinking. He just watched quietly, not moving at all. He did not fight, did not snatch, as if it had nothing to do with him. Gu Sheng's reaction was completely out of Kuei Tu's expectations. His cold eyes moved away from Lin Feng, swept across Gu Sheng's focused face, and then turned back. He clenched his teeth, but his concern was tempestuous, and he could not calm down. He thought that Gu Sheng would snatch it, but who knew that it would be like this? Damn it, Kuei Tu cursed, and in his heart, he had already cursed Gu Sheng thousands of times. He thought, This bastard must have a backup plan, so he is not afraid that this human youth will escape. But he was afraid. If he missed this opportunity, he wouldn't know where to find this young man next time. Even if he could find him, could he be faster than Gusheng? You think you can trick me like this? Kuei-Tu's eyes flashed with a cold light, and his aura exploded. A blood-red giant tiger seemed to be attached to him, and his entire body suddenly became ferocious. He stepped on the ground and directly faced Lin Feng in the air. There was no way he would let this human youth escape. A trivial Saint King realm early stage. How much effort could it take? Kuei-Tu glanced at Gusheng coldly with disdain. As far as he was concerned, Gusheng seemed to be waiting for the best opportunity to make a move. Perhaps he hoped that this human youth would exhaust some of his strength. Or perhaps he would wait until he attacked and launch a sneak attack from behind. Or perhaps he would wait until the heavenly treasure appeared before making his move. So F*** King insidious. Kuei-Tu cursed in his heart. However, he seemed to have forgotten that his nickname of Devil had been cursed thousands of times behind his back with the same adjective. It was just that no one knew him now. Oh! Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He glanced at Gusheng, who was standing below, and saw a strange feeling in his eyes. It wasn't kindness, but it wasn't malice or killing intent either. It was a complicated emotion. Although he could not understand it, his intuition told him that Gusheng would not attack him. It was as if there was something restricting him, but also as if he had other reasons for existing. Obviously, he was different from the monster race expert who was staring at him, as if he was his prey. Who was this monster race expert who had the aura of Pang Ran? There was no need to know, because he knew very well that this monster race expert had his eyes on him and would not rest until he was dead. Behind him, the fierce tiger with blood-red eyes had an imposing aura. That was the aura of a natural emperor with the power to suppress everything. Although they were on the same level, he could clearly see the strength of the blood tiger and his proud bloodline. As for himself, he could clearly recognize him. For emperors of the monster race, Blood Tiger clan, Lin Feng's eyes were deep. Back then, the kingdom of Meru had suffered a great calamity, and the instigator was the Blood Tiger clan. He vaguely remembered that a large number of Blood Tiger clan experts had invaded the kingdom of Meru, leaving corpses everywhere and rivers of blood flowing. He had almost died there. Fortunately, the golden Earth-rank treasure had saved his life and lured the saint-level Blood Tiger clan expert into the Thousand Snake Cave. After that, he was saved by Senior Bull Demon. The battle that day was unforgettable. He might not know about the other monster race clans, but he knew about the 4 great royal clans, the 5 great royal clans, and the 12 monster stars. They were at the top of the pyramid of the monster race, and could be said to be the strongest bloodline of the monster race, supporting the entire monster race. Especially the 4 great royal clans, whose talents were comparable to the strongest clans of the sorcerer race. The Blood Tiger clan had the highest bloodline, and their talent was the Space Dao. This battle, there's no way to avoid it. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and his aura was strong. The killing intent of the Blood Tiger clan expert in front of him was endless. It was not only in terms of his aura, but also in terms of his aura. He had built his range in the entire area. If he was scared away by his aura, he would be falling into his trap. With his talent in the Space Dao, there was no way he could escape. There was only one way. Come, I also want to try the true power of the Shield of Truth. Lin Feng's eyes were deep as he clenched his fists. Bang! Flames flickered, and the rebirth flame shone around his body, forming a layer of natural star armor. The engulfing flame burned in his right hand. Unlike before, his left hand flickered, and it was separated from his right hand. The energy and aura were completely different. On his left hand, a light shield flashed. All kinds of dazzling carvings flashed on it, and it gave off an extremely profound feeling. The Shield of Truth had appeared. They have indeed merged, Gusheng thought to himself. His eyes were clear, like a gurgling stream that flowed slowly, bringing with it an indescribable feeling. It was as if he was disappointed and helpless. He had come with great hopes for the heavenly treasure this time. His potential was stimulated by the 7 ancient gods of the ancient race, and he, who was known as the pride of the ancient race, carried the hopes of the ancient race. He was also very confident. Who would have thought that he would make such a big mistake? All kinds of feelings welled up in his heart. Kuei too had miscalculated him. If he could fight for it, he would not be merciful. But he could not fight for it. Bull Demon could fight for it. Kuei too could fight for it, and any other experts could fight for it. Only he and the Sorcerer Emperor could not fight for it. The heavenly treasure had descended because of him, the Sorcerer Emperor and the Human Emperor. They were born in response to a calamity. If other experts had obtained the heavenly treasure, he could fight for it. Only the Sorcerer Emperor and the Human Emperor had obtained the heavenly treasure, and he could not fight for it. If he went against the heavens, he would be punished by the heavens. The sorcerer race, the ancient race, and the human race were born from the same bloodline. Therefore, he had never had any enmity towards Lin Feng, and he would not look down on him. Because to a certain extent, the Sorcerer Emperor, and Lin Feng were on the same level, regardless of strength or status. There is still a chance. Gu Sheng's eyes flashed. He did not give up. This was not his character. If Lin Feng was killed and the heavenly treasure had just fused, it might still be able to leave the host unscathed. At that time, if the demon race expert obtained it, he would be able to intercept it openly. The chances might not be high, but there was at least a chance. It was better than searching for the demon race leader. No matter how slim the chances were, he wanted to obtain the heavenly treasure. Revitalize the ancient race. The complicated triangular relationship was actually very simple. Everything depended on the battle between Lin Feng and Kuei Tuesday. The winner would determine the ownership of the heavenly treasure. During this period, Gu Sheng would not participate at all. In a battle, the outcome would never be determined until the last moment, even if there was a great disparity in strength. Under normal circumstances, even if Lin Feng's strength had reached the level of a Sage King, he would not be Kuei Tu's match. But now, Lin Feng had fused with the Shield of Truth, and Kuei Tu was severely injured in the battle with Gu Sheng. This caused the originally tilted scale to start to tilt up bit by bit. A battle with a great disparity in strength, and on this perilous land where the array formation had already lost its barrier. There was a loud bang. Bang! Almost at the same time, Lin Feng and Kuei Tu moved. The one who made the first move had the advantage. Both of them had experienced countless battles of life and death, and had extremely strong battle experience and abilities. Neither was willing to give an inch. Mystery, Blood Phoenix. Provoking fire. Lin Feng's eyes were burning, and his battle intent was radiating. He released his transformed astral source energy without hiding it. At this moment, he did not have to worry about Gu Sheng, who was eyeing him covetously. He had to use all his strength to deal with this blood tiger race expert. If he could not get past him, there was no need to talk about anything else. Strength, the strongest explosion. Bang! Bang! The flames instantly merged at an extremely fast speed. The increase in strength and the initial mastery of the Tao of Constellation was like opening up a small space in the boundless starry sky of the Phoenix constellation for him to enter. The control of astral source energy and the control of flames increased with the understanding of the Tao of Constellation. His ability to control flames increased greatly. Although the power of the flames did not increase, the increase in his ability to control flames increased the power of the provoking fire by a lot. It was purer and more condensed. Furthermore, the formation of the provoking fire was faster. The flames that he could control were denser and more concentrated. Under the situation where the quality of the flames did not increase, the increase in quantity also increased the power of the flames by a large margin. Most importantly, the transformation of astral source energy had increased the power of the provoking fire to a whole new level. The power had increased by more than 10 times. Facing this master from the Blood Tiger clan whose strength was unknown, Lin Feng used the true strength of a Saint King for the first time. However, the opponent this time was not ordinary. The strength of the evil demon Kuei Tu was stronger than any of the experts that Lin Feng had fought before. Although the potential of this new body had not been fully developed, his strength had not reached 100% of his original body, and he was also heavily injured. However, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. In addition to the proud talent of the blood tiger race, the moment Kuei Tu attacked, it was obvious whether he was strong or not. Roar! It was like the roar of a tiger king. Behind Kuei Tu, the huge tiger with blood-red eyes was dazzling. Its scarlet skin looked like it was carved with fresh blood, and its terrifying aura rose. Chi! 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 The space seemed to be cut apart. Facing Lin Feng's attack, Kuei Tu did not retreat and counterattacked. The killing intent in his eyes was even more disdainful. A mere human martial artist? What was there to be afraid of? The blood-red, astral source energy, accompanied by a terrifying power, attacked Lin Feng directly. His aura had completely gained the upper hand. But Lin Feng's eyes were shining brightly. He was full of confidence. 0, 0, 0, 2 more chapters to go. Chapter 1333. He did not dodge or evade. Facing the attack of the Space Blade, Lin Feng did not seem to care at all. Kuei Tu frowned slightly. Just as he was puzzled, he saw the light on Lin Feng's left hand. He instantly understood everything. The bright light seemed transparent. Upon closer inspection, one could see endless engravings on it, containing secrets that no one knew. However, the defensive power was obvious. Pong, pong, pong. The light shield instantly enlarged, completely blocking Lin Feng's body behind it. The space blades condensed from Kuei Tu's powerful star source energy were directly blocked. They could not even cause a ripple, as if they were swallowed by a black hole. At this moment, behind the light shield, an astonishing surge of flames appeared inexplicably, carrying with it Pang Rant's power. Bang! A domineering aura that could burn everything. Although he was a beginner Saint King, Lin Feng's true strength was not inferior to a high-level Saint King sorcerer. However, this time, his opponent was not ordinary either. Oomph! With disdain in his eyes, Kuei Tu's body flashed slightly, as if he had teleported, and disappeared without a trace. The flames seemed to burn aimlessly, completely unable to capture Kuei Tu's trace. The astonishing flame attack landed on empty air, as if it had no effect at all. What a strong spatial ability. Lin Feng thought to himself. He did not show any disappointment, as he did not have much hope for this attack. At the beginning of the battle, it was always a test. Again, xiao, xiao, xiao. Kuei Tu's body changed, constantly moving. His body changed without any pattern, as if it was moving according to his will, as if there was a mysterious mystery permeating in it. Chi, chi, chi. The space blade appeared again, but it was different from before. Not only was it stronger, it was faster, and it came from all directions, without any blind spots. He was still testing. However, Kuei Tu's strength was slowly showing. He did not choose to fight Gu Shang face to face, not only because he was afraid of the heavenly treasure, but also because he wanted to preserve his strength to deal with Gu Shang. The biggest difference between him and Lin Feng was that other than killing Lin Feng, he still had to face an expert whose strength was not inferior to his, eyeing him covetously from below. However, Kuei Tu was destined to be disappointed. The reason why Lin Feng dared to fight someone of a higher level was because of the existence of the Shield of Truth. Without such a compatible heavenly treasure, Yang Kai wouldn't have been able to contend against this enhanced space blade with his strength alone. It was far stronger than the Saint-grade Blood Tiger clan master who had attacked him that day. Just this rapid change in movement and the 360-degree attack without any blind spots was enough to kill him. But now, whoosh! The Shield of Truth shone brightly. With a thought, The shield of truth was engraved with dazzling patterns. It extended in a strange and irregular manner, protecting his body in the center. It was as if a layer of iron had wrapped tightly around his body, leaving no gaps at all. If Kuei-2's attack was 360 degree, then the gap in the shield of truth's protection was 0 degree. 0 degree defense. Unless the shield of truth was broken, he wouldn't be able to hurt himself at all. Very strong. Lin Feng was calm and inwardly delighted. This was the first time he had used the shield of truth, and the effect was far better than he had imagined. The shield of truth's defensive power was quite strong. Perhaps its offensive power was far from enough. As a defense-type treasure, it had innate shortcomings, but it was able to bring out the word defense to the extreme. It would be harder for him to defeat Kuei-2, but for Kuei-2 to defeat him, it wouldn't be an easy task, especially when he was seriously injured. He had sensed Yang Kai's aura and had been avoiding his long-range attacks. It was not only to preserve his strength, but also because his body was injured. All his close combat abilities had been weakened, and his injuries didn't allow him to be injured anymore. It would be very difficult for him to recover. It was like comparing porcelain to stone. This Blood Tiger Demon Clan expert wasn't willing to face him head-on. Pong, pong, pong. The spatial blade collided with the shield of truth, emitting a dull sound. Inside the shield of truth, Lin Feng could see the situation outside through the shield of truth, including Kuei-2's ashen face and Gusheng's complicated eyes. However, the shield of truth's 0 degree defense couldn't be moved while it was being used. Defense could only be used for defense. Even so, it was already quite good. A basic defensive ability. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as his heart skipped a beat. This wasn't the shield of truth's ability, but even so, it had such an effect. If the real ability was used, how shocking would it be? It was hard to predict. If I can find some time to learn the first ability of a shield of truth, my defensive power will increase by another level. I can't gamble now. Lin Feng secretly made a move. Although the 0 degree defense was strong, it could only be used as a surprise move. Once someone got close to him, he would be restrained. Pa! The shield of truth disappeared in an instant, and Lin Feng appeared in front of Kuei-2 again, bringing out continuous flames. The power of the Blood Phoenix was completely gathered. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled, and there were more than 100 flaming lights. His ability to control fire was quite terrifying. Hua! His eyes shone, and he entered his own state. Chi! 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 Kuei-2's figure flashed, and he moved quickly. Facing the hundreds of fireballs, he easily dodged them. However, this was exactly what he wanted. His movement doesn't rely on his body, but on the Tao of space. The control of the Tao of space is a type of mystery, and there must be a way to use it. Let's see if my vast star pupils can sense it. Lin Feng pursed his lips, and his eyes flashed. Mystery, aerial vision. This was the mystery he learned from Thousand Love Emperor, using the Tao of space to lock onto the opponent. At this moment, the fireballs weren't used to attack Kuei-2, but to prevent him from attacking him, and to let him enter his control and rhythm. However, things didn't go as he wished. Chi! The blood-red light attacked almost instantly. Kuei-2 changed from defense to offense, and his speed was extremely fast. The fluctuation of space energy appeared directly in front of him, completely beyond the range of aerial vision's detection. Even if the vast star pupils had reached the 9th level, and it was the top pupil in his own state, the Blood Tiger clan was still talented in the Tao of space. Kuei-2's strength was unimaginably strong. He was caught off guard. Oh no! Lin Feng's expression changed. Chi! The rebirth flame shone, blocking in front of him. The shield of reality appeared a beat later, but it was still shining and faintly appeared, blocking behind the rebirth flame. Chi! A saber-like arc appeared. The terrifying aura of the saber seemed to tear the space apart. Although the rebirth flame had reached the level of the Saint King, it couldn't withstand the power of this saber. The space in front of him suddenly shattered, and Lin Feng groaned, feeling that his chest was cut open. However, Pa! At this moment, the shield of reality happened to condense. Bang! The strong force separated the two. Lin Feng gritted his teeth, and the sharp pain attacked his heart. He didn't need to look to know that his chest was bleeding, and there was a burning pain. If he had been a step later, this attack would have cut him in half. Too strong. This was the true top power of the Douling world. Even if he was seriously injured and his strength was greatly reduced, he still defeated him. How dangerous. I would have suffered a great loss if I wasn't careful. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and the flames in his hand continued to shoot out, increasing the distance between them. On the other side, Kuei Tu's expression was also ugly. He had almost succeeded in his sneak attack, and he knew that such an opportunity wouldn't come often. As the battle progressed, they would understand each other's strength more and more. The possibility of getting a fatal attack like just now would become very small. The most troublesome thing was heavenly treasure. Kuei Tu gnashed his teeth in hatred. Not only was his attack blocked, but the light shield also automatically counterattacked with the power of the illusion, affecting his soul. If he was in his peak condition, the illusion wouldn't be a problem. However, as the battle progressed, his state of mind would change, his strength would decline, and the power of his soul would weaken. The power of the illusion would gradually appear. If he wasn't careful, he would be affected by the illusion. In a battle where every second mattered, it would be fatal. I can't drag this out. The longer I drag this out, the more disadvantageous it is for me. Kuei Tu's eyes flashed coldly. After a round of probing and fighting, he gradually understood the current situation. Although this human expert was stronger than he had imagined, it wasn't to the extent of being a threat to him. The only problem was the heavenly treasure. If Gushing wasn't by his side, he could wear this human expert down. However, the situation now was very delicate. The longer he dragged this out, the weaker he would be. At that time, even if he won this battle, Gusheng would be the one to reap the benefits. Damn ancient race brat. Kuei Tu gnashed his teeth in hatred, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Even so, he had already made a decision. Fight! He had no way out. Not only did he have to fight, but he also had to use his strongest power to win this battle as quickly as possible. It was as fast as lightning. Roar! Roar! Kuei Tu roared. He clenched his fists and roared with a ferocious expression. A dazzling constellation flashed on his forehead. Behind him, a huge tiger with blood-red eyes appeared clearly. The astral origin power wildly bloomed with colors, and a bright red color formed a huge barrier. Sizzle! Sizzle! The surrounding space shattered. The trajectory of the fireball became strange. It disappeared inexplicably and landed on another layer of space. Hua! Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he stopped attacking. Feeling the terrifying increase in power, his heart throbbed deeply. His chest heaved up and down, and his heartbeat sped up. That was a warning of impending danger. His body was telling him that this terrifying expert of the Blood Tiger clan couldn't be provoked. However, he already had no way out. Pa! 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 Lin Feng trembled slightly. The expert of the demon clan in front of him had already begun to transform. It should be said that he had recovered his true form, the true form of the Blood Tiger clan. The body of a tiger, the horns of a cow, and a long spiral whip. The scarlet skin looked as if it was carved with fresh blood. It was covered in layers of scales. The wings of a cicada were thin, but they were as sharp as blades. His ferocious face carried a chilling power that made one's heart palpitate. He was like a demon king from hell. The blood-red eyes overlapped with the image behind him, making one shudder. The true form of the Blood Tiger clan. The demon clan's strongest power erupted. Chapter 1334. Looks like it's going to end soon, Gushing thought to himself. He was well aware of how powerful this Blood Tiger demonic clan expert was. Recovering his true form would consume a lot of his power and astral origin energy. At the same time, he would have to fully unleash his strength. Lin Feng's strength had indeed increased significantly, but he was still far behind the Blood Tiger Demon Clan expert. If he wanted to win, he would have to have perfect control over the heavenly treasure and be able to use its power. However, time was too short. If Lin Feng dies, there's an 80% chance that the heavenly treasure will appear, although there's a 50% chance that it'll be damaged and can't be recovered in a short time. It's still much stronger than an ordinary heavenly treasure. If it could be repaired in the future, it'll be a powerful treasure even if I become a starry sky expert in the future. I must get it. Gu Sheng's eyes glinted. He looked at the man and the demon in the sky, who were about to unleash an explosive attack. He was already prepared. If he really had to risk his life, he believed that with his trump card, there was a 70% chance that he could kill Kuei too, who had consumed a lot of his power. As long as the heavenly treasure appeared, he would attack immediately. Even if he was seriously injured, he had to give it a try. There was only one chance. Boom! A blood-red light burst out. Kuei too, who had recovered his true form, seemed to have gone crazy. His blood-red eyes indicated that he had entered a state of complete battle. He was extremely crazy. His uncontrollable wild power was completely unleashed. Cheat, cheat, cheat. In an instant, hundreds of space blades appeared. His control over the Tao of space had reached the pinnacle. So powerful. Lin Feng's expression changed. At this moment, he finally understood the gap between him and the top experts of the Douling world. The space was restricted, and the dense light blades in front of him were not something he could dodge. Their speed was several times faster than before. This was his true strength. Shield of Truth. Lin Feng's eyes focused. The shining light shield appeared again, blocking in front of him. Even though he was well aware that the Blood Tiger Demonic Clan's expert attack this time was not to kill him, but in the face of such a majestic attack that encompassed all space, what could he do? Other than defending, he could only defend. His talent in the Tao of space was quite terrifying. At this moment, he finally understood the situation of the red-yellow essence ape that day. No wonder it was suppressed to death by the witch Emperor Jiang. Pung, pung, pung. The Shield of Truth appeared right in front of him. But in an instant, swish, swish, one spatial blade after another transformed in an instant. All of a sudden, the surrounding space seemed to be refracted and distorted. Even though the Shield of Truth was not affected, the space around him seemed to have been twisted up, as if a pair of invisible hands were controlling it. Not good. Lin Feng's expression changed. With a thought, the Shield of Truth instantly extended, and the 0-degree defense reappeared. The space around them shattered the moment they were enveloped. Countless spatial blades appeared, leaving no blind spots at all. The method of attack was different from before, but it was more terrifying, more sudden, and unpredictable, making it impossible to guard against. Boom! Rumble! The tremors were intense. This time, Lin Feng deeply felt the power. Swish! Rumble! The Shield of Truth shook violently. The first time he used the 0-degree defense, he did not feel the impact at all. But this time he really felt it. Moreover, there were violent vibrations, including the sound of space being torn apart. Outside, the spatial blades formed a net, shrinking the space bit by bit as if they were hunting for food. This feeling was like being pinched by someone, unable to resist. This is... Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. With a cold smile on his face, Kuei Tu's eyes flashed coldly. His hands intertwined, constantly changing the direction of his hand gestures. The spatial blades intertwined with the Tao of space, encircling Lin Feng like a cocoon. What he was going to use was the profound mystery sky splitting net, a powerful spatial profound mystery. So what if the defense of the heavenly treasure was strong? What he wanted to attack was not the heavenly treasure, but only a pretense. Once the sky-splitting net was formed, with his absolute strength, he could shatter the entire space. Even if he did not shatter the heavenly treasure, he would definitely be able to tear this human into pieces. This profound sky-splitting net was the best way to break through defenses. Ever since he comprehended it, He had never failed. Defense? Let's see how you will die this time. Kuei Tu sneered. Danger. Extreme danger. Hua. Hua. His eyes flashed, and Lin Feng's face turned pale. He felt suffocated and uncomfortable, as if the space he was in was isolated. The vast star eyes flashed, giving him a deep sense of the Tao of space, but he was completely under the control of the other party. His heartbeat was frantic, and it clearly entered his ears. It was a warning of extreme danger, and his mouth was dry. It was too dangerous. Although the vast star eye's power could not break through, he could sense the danger and the intention of the blood tiger demonic race expert. He wanted to use a roundabout method to break down his defense. Perhaps the shield of truth's defensive power was very strong, but the blood tiger demonic race expert was very smart. He did not directly attack the shield of truth, but the space outside the shield of truth. He used a different method to attack, bypassing the shield of truth and attacking him directly. Even if the shield of truth protects me, where can I go when this space is shattered? If I fall into the turbulence of space, I will definitely die. Lin Feng's heart palpitated. As his vision was blocked bit by bit, it was as if the shield of truth was sealed. Once it was completely sealed, he would have no chance of escaping. Fight! Even if I die, it's still better than dying like this. Lin Feng's face was pale, but his eyes were filled with determination. He had no way out. Go! Astral origin energy flashed, and a fiery red figure dashed out like a phoenix bathed in blood. Facing the crisscrossing net of space blades, he passed through. The color of the flames was mixed with an indomitable aura, but in an instant, he had to face the endless attacks of space blades. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Kuei Tu's face was ice cold, and his eyes were cold. Although he was very dissatisfied with Lin Feng's escape, Kuei Tu was still very confident. Do you think you can escape? In his view, Lin Feng was just a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. The difference was how he would slaughter him and how much effort he would have to put in. The space blades directly cut through the net, and as Kuei Tu's hand gestures changed, he launched an attack, like an endless array of arrows suddenly exploding. The sky was filled with arrows. Without the protection of the 0-degree defense, Lin Feng had no way to dodge. At this moment, it was also too late to use the 0-degree defense. The situation was very critical. However, the more critical the situation was, the more one could see the true combat power of a martial artist. Combat prowess was not necessarily proportional to one's strength. Some people were unable to bring out their original strength in battle, but some people could display strength far beyond their own. Lin Feng was one of them. Hua! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. At the moment of life and death, his spirit was completely focused. At this moment, his path of retreat was blocked. The shield of truth could no longer completely protect him. He had to face the sky full of arrows, and there was no way to dodge. Only death awaited him if he defended. Then, only attack. Lin Feng's face was serious, without fear. Although there was only one path left in front of him, and it was an extremely bumpy one, it did not mean that he had no chance. True strength could only be displayed at the moment of life and death. Until the last moment, it was still unknown who would win and who would lose. Perhaps the possibility was extremely low, but so what if he took a gamble? Yin-yang mirror, yang mirror. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and the yin-yang mirror appeared. Astral source energy bloomed, converging into a white light. The yin-yang mirror instantly bloomed with infinite light. The diamond-shaped colors were like countless pieces of glass overlapping. As the astral source energy increased, the power of the yang mirror also increased. The white light in front of him was hazy, and the front was instantly separated into two worlds by the yin-yang mirror, trying to obstruct Kuei Tu's vision. However, insignificant skill. Kuei Tu's lips curled into a cold smile, not caring at all. His eyes flashed, and his hands moved, clearly sensing Lin Feng's position. Pung, pung, pung. The speed of the space blade was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, it had folded and wrapped Lin Feng in it. Although the space blade in front of him was blocked by the shield of truth, the encirclement was formed in an instant. The space blade carried Kuei Tu's aura, and the entire space was within the range of his aura. What was the use of blocking his line of sight? Stupid human, a heavenly treasure falling into your hands is a waste. Go to hell. Kuei Tu's eyes flashed coldly. With a thought, the space blade erupted, piercing 360 degrees without any blind spots, as if to turn Lin Feng into a hornet's nest. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Yin-yang mirror, yin-yang mirror. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. In the void, the mirror emitted infinite light. The rhombus-shaped light spun, and one of the sides flashed with a strange color difference above Kuei Tu's head. A three-dimensional triangular light appeared. With the yin-yang mirror as the apex, it instantly refracted like glass. At the point where the triangular light converged, Lin Feng suddenly appeared. He was behind Kuei Tu. Kuei Tu was completely caught off guard. With the yin-yang mirror as the starting point, Lin Feng had beaten Kuei Tu at his own game, attracting the firepower of the space blade and lowering Kuei Tu's vigilance. This move not only removed the danger to himself, but also gave him a chance to face Kuei Tu directly. A brilliant move reversed the situation in a treacherous situation. Oh, Gu Sheng's eyes lit up. You saw it? Even though Gu Sheng didn't think highly of Lin Feng before, he was still quite surprised at this moment. What did he see? His body. A dignified expert of the Blood Tiger clan had been avoiding physical contact, even though the space blade's power and changes were very strong. But how many cultivators would give up their strongest attack and choose another method? If it was to hide his strength, it was obviously not reasonable. Serious injury? It was not a good reason either. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Even though Kuei Tu had changed into his true form, he still maintained a long-distance attack. It was obviously very strange. However, Lin Feng dared to use the body of a heavenly spirit master to fight the body of a heavenly spirit master. It was equivalent to using one's weakness to fight the opponent's strength. Such courage were truly admirable. Chapter 1335. Gu Sheng was wrong. Lin Feng's eyesight was still inferior to his, especially when facing Kuei Tu, who was much stronger than him. It was very difficult to see through his opponent's strength, even if Kuei Tu was heavily injured. However, compared to Gu Sheng, Lin Feng had a different temperament. It was a kind of tenacious and persistent courage. Gu Sheng was like the successor that the sect had spent a lot of effort to nurture with the best conditions. As for Lin Feng, he was like an inconspicuous person among the thousands of disciples in the sect. He had gone through many rounds of selections and used blood and sweat to raise his strength step by step, standing out from the rest. His efforts would not be in vain. Time and time again, he had fought bloody battles and narrowly escaped death. Not only did this make Lin Feng's combat strength and wisdom far superior to ordinary people, but he also had a tenacious fighting spirit and a kind of battle intuition. Perhaps he could not see through Kuei Tu's strength and could not see through Kuei Tu's weakness, but his senses were very sharp, especially when Lin Feng was not an ordinary heaven spirit master. He was a heaven spirit master who was proficient in close combat. When had he ever been afraid of a tough battle? Will-o'-the-wisp realm. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he directly launched an attack. There was no pause or time to hesitate. Although he had used a strange move to catch Kuei Tu off guard, it did not mean that he had the upper hand. He was only temporarily out of danger. Every one of those tens of thousands of spatial blades was enough to kill him. Currently, they had only lost their target and did not disappear. As Kuei Tu reacted and controlled the spatial blades, before he could get close to Kuei Tu, the tens of thousands of spatial blades would break through space and surround him. There was only one chance. There was no chance for him to defend, even if he had the shield of truth. He could only use offense as defense. Bang! Flames rapidly condensed in his hands, forming a power that could disturb one's mind. Lin Feng's eyes were cold. The blood phoenix behind him flashed with a dense amplification effect, and his strength increased. The blood phoenix's strength could be used to amplify many things. This was why it was better than the Mystery Hunter Phoenix. Change. With flames and star origin energy as the foundation, the power of a celestial spirit master erupted with the Jade Meow illusion, forming a two-layered attack. Simple and direct. It was the first strike to turn defense into offense, and it was also the crucial strike. Lin Feng's eyes flashed with a bright light. Yu Miao's light was merely an illusion technique. Her true attack had long since changed to star source energy and flames. Now that he was at the Saint King realm, the use of the Earth-grade Xiantian treasure had changed from attacking to supporting. To a Saint King realm expert, the threat of an Earth-grade Xiantian treasure's attack was not that great. Kuei Tu didn't care at all. Although he was dissatisfied with Lin Feng's escape, it was only dissatisfaction. Just like hunting prey, there would always be times when there would be mistakes. As long as the prey was still there, it would not be able to escape from the palm of his hand. Seeing the illusion change in front of him, with flames as the axis, Kuei Tu sneered. His eyes shone with a cold light. He suddenly roared, and a violent wave of air surged. Roar! Like a tiger king's violent roar, mixed with the sound wave attack, he ignored Lin Feng's attack. The aura of the surrounding space changed, creating the illusion of being squeezed. Although many of the tens of thousands of spatial blades had disappeared, they had already changed directions. Sizzling sounds rose one after another, like a pack of restless wolves baring their fangs. The waves of air and flames intersected, blooming in an instant. Oh! Kuei Tu's eyes lit up, but a flame illusion flashed in front of him. Lin Feng's attack was stronger than he had imagined. But that was all. Pong! Pong! The flames exploded, and the space shattered. Kuei Tu completely ignored the existence of the illusion. He didn't even want to waste time to get rid of it, because it didn't pose any threat to him. Compared to the previous illusion, this kind of illusion attack was child's play. Chi! 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 The space shattered, and the spatial blades hesitated, waiting to strike. Cold light filled the surroundings, and Kuei Tu controlled all the changes in space. Once again, he had the initiative of the situation. But I was careless. Gu Sheng's eyes flashed, and he thought. Behind the flames, after Lin Feng's illusory attack, an attack that was even more powerful and frightening than the one before had arrived. It was very similar to the previous flame attack, with a blood-red glow penetrating through. It was very fast. Immediately after, the flame illusion arrived, forming a fiery red bird. Vermilion bird attack, 30%. Lin Feng pursed his lips, his face cold, and his eyes flashed, causing his aura to erupt. Breaking through from the Saint grade to the Saint King grade, not only did his body improve, but also his soul, especially the Phoenix life plate. It was like opening a new chapter. The attack of the Vermilion bird attack depended on the strength of the soul and the strength of the eyes. Now, both of his eyes were at the peak of the 9th level. Although it hadn't changed, it had already reached the peak of the Saint King grade, and the strength of his soul had also reached that level. It was no longer a burden. What? Kuei Tu's expression changed drastically. After all, he was a top-notch expert. Although he had underestimated Lin Feng again and again, Kuei Tu still felt that something was wrong. In the level of space that he controlled, there was a destructive power penetrating through. It was transparent, as if it didn't exist, but it was a deep imprint that made his soul tremble. Kuei Tu gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. Roar! With a furious roar, the aura of his true body surged, like an otherworldly demon. At this moment, the strength of his huge body completely erupted. The space in front of him shattered as his body became dazed. The changes of his true body condensed the true Tao of space, and it trembled violently. Blood was flowing out of his body. His injuries were extremely serious. Crack, crack. The space in front of him shattered like a mirror. Kuei-2's true body was faintly discernible. He defended and dodged, tried to avoid this attack that was enough to shake his soul. But it's too late, Gusheng said softly. As an outsider, he could see the clearest. If the Blood Tiger Demon Clan expert had discovered Lin Feng's soul attack immediately, he would have been able to escape. However, his underestimation of his opponent created an opportunity for Lin Feng. Although this opportunity wasn't very good, Lin Feng still grasped it. Gu Sheng's lips curled into a faint smile, and his eyes flashed slightly. The situation was becoming more and more advantageous for him. Chi. It was silent. However, it was unstoppable. Gu Sheng's eyes shone as if a crack had opened in the sky. An extremely dense power, accompanied by a murderous aura, shot directly at Kuei-2's day. At this moment, Lin Feng had already thrown caution to the wind. Facing Kuei-2, whose strength was unfathomable, it was undoubtedly the stupidest thing to do if he continued to hide his strength. As for Gu Sheng, he had to defeat Kuei-2 first. At this moment, he couldn't think too much. Roar! Roar! In the void, Kuei-2's furious roar could be heard. Behind him, the giant tiger with blood-red eyes trembled violently. The space had yet to completely shatter. Although it could reduce a portion of the Vermilion Bird attack's power, it was only a very small portion. It pierced through Kuei-2's body, and he couldn't dodge in time. The fiery red light flew past like a vermilion bird and collided head-on with Kuei. Tuesday hisses and furious roars converged like meteors crashing into each other. A direct collision. Boom! A crazy sound rang out, causing people to be shocked. Roar! Kuei-2's voice suddenly became hoarse. His roar seemed to shake heaven and earth, and the surrounding space trembled violently. A terrifying soul aura entered Kuei-2's body and collided with his soul. The crazy attack of a heavenly soul master caused Kuei-2's soul to suffer the most serious injury since he was reborn. Crack! 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 The spatial blades shattered one by one, and the level of the space was out of control. Kuei-2's aura fluctuated between strong and weak. His body trembled violently, and his huge body seemed to be a great burden. Crack! Crack! His skin cracked open, and the wound that had just healed was immediately damaged again. Blood flowed out, and the illusion of the blood tiger behind him became blurry, as if it was about to break apart. Roar! Roar! Rumble! A hoarse and furious roar rang through the sky. Kuei-2's aura exploded wildly. He held his head in pain, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. At this moment, he looked like a demon from hell. Lin Feng's attack this time caused him to suffer an absolute injury. It was something that he didn't expect. At this moment, Gu Sheng's eyes widened. What? Lin Feng isn't affected. What's going on? Gu Sheng was shocked as he looked at Lin Feng, rushing towards Kuei-2's day, facing the threat of Kuei-2's spatial blades. He was like a lone hero who had barged into the enemy's camp. He had just used such a domineering soul attack, but in just an instant, he launched a second attack. Unimaginable. Any soul attack was a double-edged sword. If one injured the enemy, they would definitely suffer a backlash. But now, Lin Feng wasn't affected at all. His eyes. Gu Sheng's eyes flashed, and his heart trembled. As a genius of the ancient race, if he couldn't even see this, he would be too stupid. What a terrifying talent. Gu Sheng was shocked. The reason why Heavenly Soul Masters were terrifying was that their soul attacks were feared by all experts. The reason why Heavenly Soul Masters were rare was that their attacks would always injure the enemy by 1,000, but they would also injure themselves by 800. But now, Lin Feng's attack was injuring the enemy by 800, but he wasn't injured at all. How heaven-defying was this? This technique was too powerful. Although the power of his attack isn't as strong as an orthodox Heavenly Soul Master, there isn't any backlash. This Blood Tiger Demon Clan expert went for wool and came home shorn this time. Even if he managed to kill Lin Feng, he would still be heavily injured. A smile appeared on Gusheng's face. The battle situation was much more perfect than he had imagined. However, even though Lin Feng had the advantage, he still didn't think that Lin Feng could win this battle. Even if Lin Feng had the advantage, even if the Blood Tiger Demon Clan expert was heavily injured, a kitten couldn't win against a ferocious tiger, no matter how sick the tiger was. At this moment, Lin Feng was getting closer and closer to Kuei Tuesday attack. Hesitant. Chapter 1336. This was an attack with no way out. It was also his only chance. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He was very clear in his heart. In front of him, the huge body of the Blood Tiger Demonic Clan expert was right in front of him. Although his body was covered in wounds, his newly healed body was like broken porcelain, and he was heavily injured by Lu Cheng's vermilion bird attack. The Blood Tiger Demonic Clan expert's aura did not weaken much. He still had his strength. He had merely been caught off guard by the vermilion bird's assault. It was as if he had been hit in the back with a stick. Although he was dizzy, it did not mean that he had lost his ability to fight. His soul was very strong. The Blood Tiger Demonic Clan was worthy of being one of the 4 imperial clans of the demonic clan. When he attacked, he knew that even if the vermilion bird attack was used to its maximum power, it would not be able to kill the Blood Tiger Demonic Clan expert. Therefore, he only used 30% of its power. This was enough power to guarantee that he would have a chance to launch an attack. The flames were dazzling. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with determination. The devouring fire in his left hand and the rebirth fire in his right hand were unleashed at the limit of his astral origin energy. Behind him, the Blood Phoenix illusion was infinitely large. It seemed to be crying loudly. The flames in his hand grew. In addition to the astral origin energy, there was also the profound Blood Phoenix energy. I must succeed. Lin Feng pursed his lips and gritted his teeth. He had no way out. Whether it was the profound Blood Phoenix, the provocative fire, or even the cloud rising spear, it was impossible to kill the Blood Tiger Demonic Clan expert in front of him, even if he was heavily injured. There was only one path, a path that he had always tried but had never succeeded. Fusion. The fusion of the devouring fire and the rebirth fire. The two, from their appearance to their cultivation, to their current strength, had never successfully fused even once. At first, it was the power of the magnetic explosion. Then, it was the astral origin energy as the axis to forcefully bring them together. Then, it was the provocative fire that allowed the two to form a strange fusion under the control of the technique. However, this was not the right path. Its power could not be compared to a true fusion. One chance. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. His heart was focused to the extreme. He had no way out. The space in front of the Blood Tiger Demonic Clan expert had already been locked down by him. At this moment, behind him, tens of thousands of space blades had already appeared. Once the Blood Tiger Demonic Clan expert woke up, the space blades would be completely under his control. At that time, he would be pierced by thousands of arrows. It was a fight to the death. Cheat, cheat, cheat. The fiery light continued to rise as astral origin energy was amplified to the limit. However, the brilliance of the flames of rebirth far surpassed that of the flames of devouring. They were both saint-level flames, but the flames of rebirth had already reached the level of a Saint King. The fundamental gap between the two was widened, and their levels were also different. Fusion was all about balance, but right now it was still difficult to achieve a perfect balance. Come, a little more. Lin Feng clenched his teeth, his heart filled with desire. The devouring fire in his left hand continued to rise. The improvement in his fire control allowed him to control more and stronger flames. But right now it was not enough. It was far from enough. Bring it on. Lin Feng's veins bulged as he screamed madly in his heart. In the face of life and death, in the face of heavy pressure, his heart desired more power than ever. Above his left hand, The flames of devouring continued to rise, but it seemed to have reached its peak. Even if he used all his strength, it was still incompatible with the flames of rebirth in his right hand. Just a little bit more. He desperately urged his strength, and the anger and persistence in his heart finally. Boom! The flames surged wildly. Lin Feng's tense nerves finally relaxed, and his eyes shone brightly. He ignited the flames of devouring. The phoenix natal chart seemed to be resonating, and the proud phoenix in the constellation seemed to have opened its eyes. The rich constellation Tao entwined, and the flames of devouring rose with a whoosh. The flames on his left hand, which were originally barely at the peak, instantly rose to another level. It surpassed the flames of rebirth. He had broken through. Facing the predicament, facing the final attack, his strong willpower urged the flames of devouring to break through to the 80th level, reaching the true power of a Saint King. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. At this moment, he was less than 100 meters away from the Blood Tiger Demon Clan in front of him. They were about to arrive in an instant. I must succeed. Lin Feng clenched his fists and suddenly shouted. The feeling at this moment was very similar to the moment of death when he was climbing the 108th step. It was the feeling of being suppressed to the extreme. It was the feeling of smelling the scent of death. His body's strength was under his control, and he was dancing on the edge of a knife. There was a great mystery between life and death. The power of the blood phoenix. Lin Feng was very calm. Under the extreme pressure, he entered a wonderful state. His eyes shone. In his state, his soul seemed to have arrived at his natal constellation. He looked up and saw the existence of the phoenix. Arrogant and proud, it was a natural emperor. Two extremely fierce flames intertwined. They had the same power as the flames of rebirth and the flames of devouring, but more profound and powerful. However, they were exactly the same opposites. Like the two poles of a magnet, like the two sides of a ruler, they were completely different. However, any power, any existence had its commonality. The power of the star source. The power of the blood phoenix. Lin Feng surged, and his eyes shone. The fusion of the flames not only had the transformed star source as the intermediary, but also the stronger power of the blood phoenix as the axis. Previously, he was unable to fuse these two flames because of the lack of commonality, the lack of fire control, and the lack of power of the axis. But at this moment, everything would be easily solved. The feeling was extremely profound. Although there was still a considerable distance from a perfect fusion compared to any previous fusion, this time, it was much stronger. Boom! Two solitary rays of light converged, like heavenly thunder stirring up the earth fire. Frantically moving, the flames condensed. Every inch and every square had the existence of a completely opposite power. Every point of contact, surface-to-surface collision, produced rapid power. It was like the convergence of a magnetic explosion. The compression of the flames was astonishing and terrifying. Lin Feng's face was grim. The control completely exceeded his expectations. At this moment, the power in his hands had exceeded the range he could bear. It continued to rise and improve. The increase of the star source and the power of the blood phoenix, accompanied by the explosion of the two flames, could even blast him into ashes. His heart was beating wildly, but his consciousness was extremely clear. At this moment, his entire person was inexplicably calm. Go! Lin Feng's eyes bloomed, and the blood phoenix behind him was incomparably bright. A phoenix seemed to be howling in the air, and the color of the flames illuminated the entire sky. Even Gu Sheng, who was below, was shocked. The light around his body was light, but he deeply felt the power of Lin Feng's attack and set up a defense. Rumble! The huge fireball was compressed to the extreme. That was the true fusion of power. It was the first time he had crazily rushed. Facing a strong enemy he had never faced before, Lin Feng exploded with 150% of his power. He used all the strength in his body to blast out, and his control had long exceeded the limit. His body collapsed, and his face was incomparably pale. However, his eyes were as bright as the stars. This was his strongest attack. At this moment, Kuei 2 was powerless even if he wanted to. He had just been bombarded by the Vermilion Bird's attack, and his soul had suffered heavy damage. His consciousness was blurred, and even his perception of space had disappeared. At this moment, when the surging power appeared, Kuei 2, who had just recovered a little, widened his eyes completely. No! Kuei 2 was shocked and terrified. He used all his strength to stretch his claws forward, wanting to resist. However, it was all too late. Rumble. There was no way to dodge. This attack had even exceeded the power of a peak saint. The roar was like the cry of a ghost, and it was so heart-wrenching that it felt like it was being torn apart by 5 horses. The terrifying flames completely exploded, and the entire world seemed to be destroyed. The flames collapsed, and the uncontrollable flames of rebirth and flames of devouring exploded to the extreme, and it was extremely crazy. Rumble, 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 rumble. The sky fell and the earth cracked, and the mountains shook and the seas dried up. The sound of a magnetic explosion rang out everywhere, and the sizzling sound shook people's lungs. The entire space was torn apart. This kind of attack was enough to destroy the physical body of any Saint King. If it was a direct hit, it was hard to imagine how powerful it would be. Puff, puff. Lin Feng violently vomited blood, and his entire body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. Although he had the protection of a shield of truth, after launching the only attack, he did not have the strength to defend himself at all. The power of the magnetic explosion shattered his body, and even the aftershock was quite terrifying. His originally intact body was now shattered into pieces. The distance was too close. However, this was the only way to have enough power. This was the only time he had to fight. Sizzle, sizzle. The space shattered and was destroyed. The spatial blade had already been detonated and disappeared without a trace. In the middle of the flames, the heart-wrenching sound had already disappeared, as if it had been torn to pieces by a terrifying power. At the edge, the aftershock had such power. What about Kuei 2, who was in the middle of the attack, who was attacked? He should be dead. Lin Feng's body was unable to move, and his chest kept rising and falling. If he still could not kill him, there was nothing he could do. He had already reached his limit. His injuries were quite serious. Fortunately, the body of a Saint King was strong enough, and he had the Phoenix bloodline, so his recovery speed was enough. Although his injuries were serious, there was still a distance between them and his life. Whoosh! His aura fluctuated. He wanted to sense the aura of the Blood Tiger Demon Clan expert, but he was blocked by a void of spatial power. He could not sense it. Was Kuei 2 really dead? He disappeared. Gu Sheng frowned, and his expression was ugly. Lin Feng could not sense the aura because he was not strong enough. However, he could clearly sense the disappearance of the Blood Tiger Demon Clan expert's aura. However, it was very strange. Even if his soul was injured, he should not have died so thoroughly after taking this attack with his physical body. Gu Sheng did not understand. He was the most direct witness of the entire battle, and he could clearly sense the energy fluctuations of both parties' auras. If he was really killed by Lin Feng's attack, his aura should have disappeared directly. However, the aura of the Blood Tiger Demon Clan expert gradually weakened until it was about to stop. Then it disappeared again. It was very strange. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.